Chapter 560. After paying the fee, Chu Fengmian and Bai Xian stepped into the primal chaos continent. As soon as they entered the primal chaos continent, Chu Fengmian felt that the most terrifying void turbulence in the void ocean was nowhere to be found. If the starry sky peak was like a small boat floating in the sea, then the primordial chaos continent was like an island that was incomparably stable. The void ocean was incomparably stable, and they couldn't feel the slightest threat from the outside. It was as if the primal chaos continent wasn't in the dangerous void ocean, but a country in the northern region. There were countless chambers of commerce and countless experts walking around. Most of them were at the 9th level of the divine power realm. Although some of them weren't as strong as Luo Zhanhen, they weren't too far off from Bai Xian. However, those at the level of Luo Zhanhen and Kanglin Ba were much rarer. It was hard to find one in 1,000 people. Such people were absolute geniuses no matter where they were. There are many lone wolves in the void ocean. They are extremely talented, but they are unwilling to join any forces. They have been searching for resources in the void ocean, and their fortuitous encounters are enough to support their cultivation. Bai Xian looked at some familiar faces and explained to Chu Fengmian. These people are lawless and not easy to deal with. It's better not to provoke them. However, after saying those words, Bai Xian suddenly realized that Chu Fengmian, who was by her side, was the true lawless person. He dared to kill the disciples of the 7 major sections. He was the real lawless person. Whoever dared to provoke Chu Fengmian was courting death. There are tens of millions of chambers of commerce in the primal chaos continent. They come from various forces. Even the forces of the other regions have established chambers of commerce in the primal chaos continent. Bai Xian pointed at the numerous chambers of commerce and said, "So, you can choose carefully if you want to buy anything. But we can go to the Heavenly Chamber of Commerce first." The bounty for the Void 5 Tyrants was set by them. Qi Origin Tower, 1,000 Weapons Pavilion, 1,000 Treasures Tower. Chu Fengmian looked around and saw many familiar signs. There were many chambers of commerce in the primal chaos continent that were famous in the 9 regions. Some of them were inextricably linked to the 7 major sects. The primordial chaos continent could be considered one of the most prosperous regions in the northern region. However, the primordial chaos continent was, after all, the largest gathering place in the void ocean. It was a place that all warriors who came to the void ocean had to pass through. With so many experts coming and going, it was naturally enough to create such a bustling place. Let's go. Let's go to Heavenly Trade Association first. Chu Fengmian nodded. The Heavenly Chamber of Commerce was a large chamber of commerce that had branches throughout the 9 regions. If one wanted to purchase the required wealth, they could do so in the Heavenly Chamber of Commerce. As they spoke, the two of them walked on the primal chaos continent. The primal chaos continent was under a restriction that prevented flight. However, with their strength, it was easy for them to shrink the land into an inch. After a few minutes, Bai Xian and Chu Fengmian arrived in front of an incomparably huge chamber of commerce. Although it was called a chamber of commerce, at a glance, it looked more like an incomparably huge city, incomparably prosperous. In the primordial chaos continent, each chamber of commerce was an incomparably huge city, like each sect. However, it was rare to see a chamber of commerce as large as the Heavenly Chamber of Commerce. In front of the city, there was a huge signboard with the words Heavenly Chamber of Commerce written on it. Chu Fengmian could sense a trace of mystery in the 2 words. It was definitely carved by a powerful existence that had almost transcended life and death. Countless martial artists came and went from the city. Most of them were at the pinnacle of the Saint Realm, but there were also martial artists who had not reached the pinnacle of the Saint Realm. Oh, how did these warriors without the strength of a peak saint come to the primordial chaos continent? Chu Fengmian asked with some surprise. The primordial chaos continent was located in the void ocean. Without the strength of a peak saint, it was impossible to come to the primordial chaos continent. Some experts could indeed help people withstand the turbulence of the void and bring in some juniors. However, there were also many warriors who had not reached the peak saint level on the primordial chaos continent. These people did not come from outside. They originally lived on the primordial chaos continent. Bai Xian smiled when she heard Chu Fengyan's confusion. There were originally some natives on the primordial chaos continent. These people have always lived on the primordial chaos continent, but if they have not reached the peak saint level, they will probably never be able to leave. However, there are many resources on the primordial chaos continent. So many of the warriors living there have the potential to reach the peak saint level. Let's go and take a look. Chu Fengyan and Bai Xian walked into the city. Immediately, several warriors in front of the city gate came over to greet them. The strength of these few cultivators was around the 3rd level of the divine power realm. Outside, even in the prosperous lands of the North region, they wouldn't be considered weak. However, in the primordial chaos continent, they could only be weaklings at the bottom. They work for some forces. After all, most of the warriors who came to the primordial chaos continent had the strength of a peak saint. A female disciple who looked to be in her early 20s came over to greet them. Your Excellencies, are you here to buy something? Our Heavenly Chamber of Commerce has all kinds of treasures. We have natural wonders and king-grade spirit stones. May I know what you two are looking for? Take us to the mission hall first. We have completed the Heavenly Chamber of Commerce's bounty. Bai Xian said, after we complete the mission, we will go buy some things. Your Excellencies, please follow me. The female disciple respectfully nodded her head and courteously led Chu Fengyan and Bai Xian to a palace. Elderly, 2 of your Excellencies have completed the mission of the mission hall and have come to claim the bounty. The female disciple respectfully called out to the mission hall. An old man slowly walked out from the hall. This old man's strength was around the high level of the life and death realm. However, among the high-level life and death realm experts, he could only be considered ordinary. He was about the same level as Kanglin and I and the others, and was much weaker than the undying demon ancestor. Elderly sized up Chu Fengyan and Bai Xian and said, you two have completed the mission? Take out the proof. Pung, 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 pung. Bai Xian expressionlessly opened her spatial ring. Immediately, 5 corpses appeared on the ground. These 5 corpses belonged to life and death experts. They had been immortal for 1,000 years. Now that they appeared, their appearances were vivid and lifelike. These are the Void 5 Tyrants? Elderly sized up the 5 corpses, and his eyes widened in disbelief. Chapter 561. The 5 corpses in front of him were the 5 Void Tyrants. Elderly naturally knew about the reputation of the 5 Void Tyrants. With his strength, he might not be able to kill the 5 of them, even if they joined forces. These Void 5 Tyrants moved unhindered in the Void Ocean, bullying the weak and fearing the strong. They didn't dare to offend high-level life and death experts. Ordinary life and death realm martial artists were not their opponents. Trying to kill them would be extremely dangerous. They could be said to be extremely troublesome characters. Elderly didn't expect that someone would kill them today. Elderly carefully sized up Chu Fengyan and Bai Xian, and a trace of astonishment flickered in his eyes. 2 9th-level divine power realm martial artists were actually able to kill the Void 5 Tyrants. This was enough to shock him. Chu Fengyan didn't pay attention to Elder Li's probing. His strength wasn't something that Elder Li could probe. Chu Fengyan calmly said, correct, they're the Void 5 Tyrants. The bounty for the Void 5 Tyrants was set by Sky Chamber of Commerce, right? These 5 corpses are here. Check them. All right. Elder Li's spiritual power entered the corpses of the Void 5 Tyrants. Immediately, the corpses shone with a peculiar radiance. Surges of spiritual energy gushed out. This energy came from the Void 5 Tyrants' power. For martial artists at Chu Fengyan's level, their appearance and age were already immeasurable. They could change their appearance at any time. The only thing that couldn't be changed was the cultivation method and power they cultivated. Correct, they're the Void 5 Tyrants. Elder Li withdrew his spiritual energy and nodded. With a wave of his hand, an empty ring appeared in his palm. He took out a jade box from the ring and handed it over. The bounty for the Void 5 Tyrants was set by the dragon race. The reward is 5 Dragon Blood Saint King pellets. Chu Fengyan received the jade box and opened it. There was a total of 5 red medicinal pills the size of a longan. Every single one of them contained extremely pure blood aura. Among them, there was also a terrifying dragon's might. This dragon might didn't belong to an ordinary true dragon, but to the true dragon race's dragon king. The Dragon Blood Saint King pill was a pill refined from the blood of a true dragon and a drop of the Dragon King's blood. It was dozens of times more effective than ordinary Dragon Blood Saint pills. The dragon race that offered this bounty sure is generous. 5 Dragon Blood Saint King pills are enough to strengthen my current body. My bloodline is the same as the ancient war dragons, but my body is far inferior. The ancient war dragon's strength lies not only in its bloodline. Even if I possess 10% of the ancient war dragon's bloodline, my true strength is far from 10% of the ancient war dragon's strength. Chu Fengmian thought to himself. He cultivated the battle dragon art. If he wanted to strengthen his body, the Dragon Blood Saint King pill refined from dragon blood was indeed a very good choice. It would be even better if I had Dragon Blood Saint Emperor pellets. If I had Dragon Blood Saint Emperor pellets refined from Dragon Emperor's blood, 5 of them would be enough to raise my body to the limit. However, he could only think about it. Chu Fengmian laughed at himself. The Dragon Blood Saint Emperor pellet was a heaven-grade elixir. The Dragon Emperor was an existence that ruled over dragons. How could it be easy to refine Dragon Blood Saint Emperor pellets with his blood? However, other than the Dragon Blood Saint Emperor pellets, there were other elixirs that could strengthen a martial artist's body. Chu Fengmian could look for other elixirs to strengthen his body. Chu Fengmian thought as he kept the 5 Dragon Blood Saint Emperor pellets into his spatial ring. Wait, I want these Dragon Blood Saint Emperor pellets. A figure came to the mission hall and suddenly looked at the Dragon Blood Saint Emperor pellets in Chu Fengmian's hand. He then walked towards Chu Fengmian. This figure was a man that looked like he was in his 20s. His spiritual energy was extremely dense, and he was at the Divine Force Realm Level 9. Judging from his aura, this man's strength should be on par with Luo Zhanin. You two are the ones that killed the 5 tyrants of the void and obtained the Dragon Blood Saint Emperor pellets. The man looked at Chu Fengmian with disdain in his eyes. His tone was extremely tough, as if he was ordering them. I want these Dragon Blood Saint Emperor pellets. Name a price. Chu Fengmian glanced at the man and snorted coldly. You can't afford it. If this man had a proper conversation, Chu Fengmian might have spoken a few words with him. However, Chu Fengmian wouldn't give him any face when he was arrogant and bossy. Can't afford it? What a joke. Just a few Dragon Blood Saint Emperor pellets. Ouyang Lai, don't put them in my eyes. The man named Ouyang Lai sneered coldly. This Dragon Blood Saint Emperor pellet is only sold for 1 king-grade spiritual stone outside. I'll give you 5 king-grade spiritual stones. Hand over the Dragon Blood Saint Emperor pellets. Ouyang Lai snorted coldly as he took out 5 king-grade spiritual stones from his spatial ring and threw them towards Chu Fengmian. Ouyang Lai. Bai Xian's expression changed slightly when she heard the name. She seemed to have understood who the man in front of her was and quietly said to Chu Fengmian, Ouyang Lai is one of the independent experts who roamed the void ocean. He's extremely strong, and his strength isn't below Luo Zhanin's. He even joined one of the major independent forces in the void ocean, the Heaven Alliance. He has a high position in the void ocean and is not easy to deal with. Is that so? Not easy to deal with? Chu Fengmian sneered. Facing the 5 king-grade spiritual stones that were thrown towards him, Chu Fengmian stood with his hands behind his back and dodged them. Thump! The 5 king-grade spiritual stones rolled on the ground and made a crisp sound. Brat, what do you mean by this? Ouyang Lai looked at Chu Fengmian and sneered. How dare you not take my spiritual stones? Are you courting death? I'll give you a chance. Kneel down and pick up my spiritual stones. Then, hand over the 5 Dragon Blood Saint Emperor pellets, and I'll let you off this time. You want me to kneel down? Who do you think you are? Chu Fengmian sneered. You want to buy the Dragon Blood Saint Emperor pellets? Sure. 1 Dragon Blood Saint Emperor pellet is worth 100 royal grade spiritual stones. That's a total of 500 Dragon Blood Saint Emperor pellets. Take them out, and I'll sell them to you. Chu Fengmian's words were blunt. Since Ouyang Lai was so overbearing, Chu Fengmian naturally wouldn't be polite. The price of a Dragon Blood Saint King pill was about 1 King Great Spirit Stone, and 1 Royal Great Spirit Stone could be exchanged for 100 King Great Spirit Stones. Chu Fengmian's words were equivalent to raising the price of the Dragon Blood Saint Emperor pellets by 10,000 times. What? What did you say? Ouyang Lai was stunned when he heard Chu Fengmian's words. Then his face was filled with killing intent. Chapter 562. 10,000 times the price. This was no longer an exorbitant price. Daring to offer such a price was simply not putting Ouyang Lai in his eyes. What? You don't understand human language? A Dragon Blood Saint King pellet and 100 Emperor Grade Spirit Stones. You're just a pauper. If you can't afford it, then scram. Chu Fengmian glanced at Ouyang Lai with disdain. It was as if Ouyang Lai was a pauper in Chu Fengmian's eyes. As soon as these words were spoken, the expressions of the surrounding cultivators froze. A 9th-level Divine Force Realm cultivator actually dared to speak to Ouyang Lai in such a manner. Who was Ouyang Lai? In the Void Ocean, he was one of the strongest Divine Force Realm cultivators. Although Chu Fengmian was also at the 9th level of the Divine Force Realm, just like Ouyang Lai, he was still at the 9th level. But even if they were both at the 9th level of the Divine Force Realm, the difference in strength was incomparably huge. With Ouyang Lai's strength, killing ordinary life and Death Realm cultivators wasn't a difficult matter. But now, dealing with a Divine Force Realm cultivator was as easy as flipping his hand. Is this kid crazy? Look at his appearance. He's extremely unfamiliar. He should be a newcomer who just came to the Void Ocean. A newcomer who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth actually dares to provoke Ouyang Lai. He's courting death. This kid is courting death. If Ouyang Lai attacks, he'll be killed in a single move. Countless spectators discussed spiritedly. Who was Chu Fengmian? They had never seen him before. However, they had all heard of Ouyang Lai's great name. In the Void Ocean, there are only a few Divine Force Realm cultivators who could contend against Ouyang Lai. How could an unknown kid contend against Ouyang Lai? This kid's character is too arrogant. It's not a good thing to be so arrogant. But after all, this is a conflict in our Sky Chamber of Commerce. It's not good for there to be casualties. I'll take action after this kid is taught a lesson. Mission Hall's elder, Li shook his head as he looked at Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian and Bai Xian were able to kill the 5 tyrants of the Void Ocean. They did have some strength, but it was far from enough to contend against Ouyang Lai. Ha ha ha! All of a sudden, Ouyang Lai burst into laughter. His laughter was so terrifying that it made one shudder. In the midst of his laughter, Ouyang Lai's power instantly erupted. Surging waves of air caused countless people to step back and hurriedly dodge. A mere ant dares to demand an exorbitant price? It seems that I, Ouyang Lai, have not fought for a long time. Many people have forgotten my dignity. Ouyang Lai looked at Chu Fengmian, his eyes filled with killing intent. Although Ouyang Lai's realm was still at the Divine Force Realm, his strength had already surpassed the boundaries of the Divine Force Realm. His strength was enough to contend against 4th-level life and death experts. Even many high-level life and death experts would be extremely polite when they saw him, as if they were on equal footing. After all, once Ouyang Lai chose to cross the life and death calamity and step in a high-level life and death realm, it would be a sure thing. In the primordial chaos continent, countless Chamber of Commerce forces had to give him some face. Today, he originally thought that once he opened his mouth, Chu Fengmian would obediently hand over the Dragon Blood Saint King pills and then leave with his tail between his legs. However, he didn't expect Chu Fengmian to not give him any face and even ridicule him. How could Ouyang Lai endure this? Good, very good. Looking at you, you're a disciple of the North Sea Academy? However, even if you're a disciple of the North Sea Academy, speaking to me like this is a crime punishable by death. Even Luo Zhanhen doesn't dare to be impudent in front of me. Ouyang Lai's eyes stared at Chu Fengmian as he spoke word by word. Kneel down and cripple your own cultivation. Then I'll spare your life. Kneel down? Cripple my own cultivation? You're just a kid at the divine force realm. Do you really think you're a high-level life and death expert? No one in the North region has the qualifications to make me kneel down. Chu Fengmian looked at Ouyang Lai and coldly snorted. Ouyang Lai? Sky Alliance's people? In front of me, you're just a barking dog. Chu Fengmian's words silenced the entire crowd. When the words barking dog came out, everyone was stunned. Each and every one of them looked at Chu Fengmian as if they were looking at a madman. Is this guy crazy? It's over. Sky Chamber of Commerce is going to see blood. The last person who dared to speak to Ouyang Lai like this was killed by him on the spot. This is Sky Chamber of Commerce. They'll stop him, right? So what? Once he leaves Sky Chamber of Commerce, this kid will die all the same. I don't believe he'll stay in Sky Chamber of Commerce forever. Crack! The sound of tiles shattering resounded. The tiles under Ouyang Lai's feet were directly crushed by him. Ouyang Lai's face was already flushed red with anger. His heart was already burning with rage. Ouyang Lai had moved unhindered in the void ocean. No one had ever dared to call him a dog. This kind of humiliation was even more unbearable than killing him. What a sharp-tongued kid. Let's see if your mouth can save your life. Die for me. Ouyang Lai finally couldn't take it anymore. Waves of spiritual energy were released from his body, and the surrounding space began to shatter and change. Strands of space condensed in Ouyang Lai's hand, turning into a sharp blade. Without a sound, it suddenly slashed towards Chu Fengmian. This blade seemed to have fused with the surrounding space, making it impossible to guard against. It had no trajectory and couldn't be dodged. It could appear from all directions at any time, condensing space into a blade. This is the ability to comprehend space law to the extreme. According to legend, Ouyang Lai has the bloodline of the ancient divine beast, Kunping. He can control space. Unless it's a high-level life and death realm martial artist, it's almost impossible to block this blade. Moreover, even a high-level life and death realm martial artist can only break it with brute force. There's no good way to deal with space law. A spectating martial artist sighed in admiration. Kunping was one of the ancient divine beasts. Like the ancient war dragon, it was a peak existence in the ancient era. The ancient war dragon was powerful because of its tyrannical strength. As for Kunping, it was because of its comprehension of space law. According to legend, Kunping could travel through the void at will. It could easily shatter a part of the void and annihilate everything within it. In the ancient era, only a few peak existences of the 9 regions could contend against Kunping. Ordinary martial artists would instantly be annihilated in the void. Ouyang Lai actually had the bloodline of Kunping. His comprehension of space law was extremely high. With such a bloodline, he was almost invincible in the same realm. The void longsword was silently slashing toward Chu Fengmian. It seemed like Chu Fengmian would fall under the void blade in the next moment. Chapter 563. Chu Fengmian's expression remained extremely calm in the face of this silent blade. Chu Fengmian stood on the spot with his hands behind his back. The moment the void blades slashed at him, Chu Fengmian slowly looked over. Rock bloodline? How dare you call yourself the rock bloodline with your extremely mixed bloodline? You only have a little bit of the rock bloodline. You're just a bunch of bastards. How dare a bastard bloodline be so arrogant in front of me? Chu Fengmian looked at Ouyang Lai with extreme disdain. Ouyang Lai's bloodline was extremely messy. No one knew how many bloodlines he had mixed together. The true rock bloodline was not even 1,000th or 1/10,000th. Even the purest rock bloodline could only be on par with Chu Fengmian's ancient battle dragon bloodline. Such a bastard dared to attack in front of Chu Fengmian. What a joke. Great. Chu Fengmian calmly spat out a word, which turned into a dragon's roar. The void blades around Chu Fengmian were immediately shattered by the dragon's roar when they approached Chu Fengmian. Crack! Crack! All of them fell to the ground and shattered. At the same time, the dragon's roar turned into a sharp sword and stabbed at Ouyang Lai. The roar was like a sword. Ouyang Lai's face suddenly changed. He did not expect Chu Fengmian's strength to reach such a level. Not only did he block his void blades, but he also turned into a sword and stabbed at him with a dragon's roar. It was a supreme, killing move. Ouyang Lai instinctively stepped back. At the same time, his spiritual energy crazily gathered around him. Condensed space as armor. The surrounding space condensed and turned into an armor around Ouyang Lai. Bang! The sword pierced through Ouyang Lai's void armor. With a kacha sound, the void armor shattered into pieces and fell to the ground. At the same time, a blood mark was clearly visible on Ouyang Lai's chest. The blood mark was only a step away from Ouyang Lai's heart. What's going on? The crowd was silent. In the next moment, it was almost boiling. Am I crazy? Am I seeing things? How is this possible? A martial honorable screamed crazily. He could not believe what he was seeing. He was not the only one. Almost everyone was astonished and began to discuss among themselves. What's going on? How could Ouyang Lai be injured? A single sentence, a single word, hurt Ouyang Lai? Ouyang Lai made the first move and was defeated. How is this possible? Ouyang Lai's strength was publicly acknowledged in the void ocean. Among those at the Divine Force realm, there were only a few who could defeat him. Even Luo Zhanhin, the #1 person on the Earth ranking of the Beimang Academy, would have a 50% chance of winning against Ouyang Lai. No one would have thought that Ouyang Lai would actually be defeated by an unknown brat. What made the countless people present even more unbelievable was that Ouyang Lai was the one who had taken the initiative to attack. With Ouyang Lai's strength, it was simply impossible for him to lose. As for Chu Fengmian, he did not even need to do anything. He merely uttered a single word to completely neutralize Ouyang Lai's void condensed blade. The word turned into a sword and directly pierced Ouyang Lai. This result was simply unimaginable. Even Elder Li, a high-level life and death realm expert, was incomparably shocked when he saw this result. The only person who remained calm was Bai Xian. Bai Xian had seen Chu Fengmian kill 3 high-level life and death realm experts with her own eyes. Dealing with Ouyang Lai was a piece of cake for him. Very good. Brat, I thought you were just an ant. It seems like you still have some strength. However, you have to remember that in the void ocean, no one could be arrogant in front of me, Ouyang Lai. So what if I have some strength? You've offended someone you shouldn't have. Today you'll still die. Ouyang Lai roared. The bloodline power in his body was fully unleashed as a cruel smile appeared on his face. I only used 30% of my strength to test you. It's already your honor to be able to force me to use my full strength. Void freeze. Suppress. Ouyang Lai suddenly attacked. The space law in his body burst out completely and was pushed to the limit. All of a sudden, the surrounding space froze, as if everything was under the control of the void freeze. Even the space around Chu Fengmian was frozen. What was frozen was not only the space, but also Chu Fengmian's body. It was as if Chu Fengmian and the surrounding space were going to be frozen and suppressed. Not good. Retreat. Void freeze. Just how terrifying must one's comprehension of the laws of space be to accomplish this? Retreat quickly. We can't be affected. Countless onlookers hastily retreated. If they were affected by the void freeze, they would also be suppressed. Even Mission Hall's Elder Li waved his hand, condensing a barrier in front of him to resist the void freeze. With his high-level life and death realm cultivation base, he couldn't completely ignore the void freeze. This void freeze was Ouyang Lai's strongest move. It was almost invincible under the high-level life and death realm. Facing the void freeze, Chu Fengmian's expression was as calm as ever. The disdain in his eyes didn't even change in the slightest. 30% of my strength? I don't even need to use 10% of my strength to deal with you. And here I thought you had some tricks up your sleeve. It's just SOSO. The corner of Chu Fengmian's mouth curled into a sneer. He finally moved. Chu Fengmian slowly raised his hand and shot out a palm. This palm didn't seem to have much power behind it. It seemed to be an extremely calm palm. However, the moment it was shot out, the supreme power contained within it erupted in an instant. Boom! The powerful energy contained in this palm swept through everyone in the surroundings in an instant. Everyone could feel an overwhelming power. This was merely the aftermath. The real power had already struck the frozen void. In an instant, it bombarded the void. Kacha! A shattering sound rang out. Countless cracks suddenly appeared in the frozen void beside Chu Fengmian. In the next moment, it completely shattered. Void freeze, Ouyang Lai's strongest move, was actually broken just like that? Just how terrifying is this person's strength? I can feel that just the power of the aftershock is enough to easily crush me. The crowd was in an uproar. Ouyang Lai had actually lost the upper hand. Even his strongest move was about to be broken by someone. Who could have imagined such an outcome? Chapter 564. In everyone's eyes, it was supposed to be a battle without any suspense. But now, it had turned into a one-sided battle. The result was the complete opposite. Ouyang Lai had even used his strongest move, but it was easily neutralized by Chu Fengmian. This person's bloodline should be a special kind of bloodline. It might even be above Ouyang Lai's Kunpeng bloodline. That's why he could defeat Ouyang Lai. Elderly watched Chu Fengmian defeat Ouyang Lai and was incomparably shocked. Ouyang Lai was already a famous genius in the Void Ocean. He was strong enough to contend with the Northern Mang Academy's Inner Disciple Earth Rankings #1 expert, Luo Zhanhen. This kind of strength was already near the peak of the Divine Force realm. But now, he was actually defeated so miserably by Chu Fengmian. It wouldn't have been strange if it had been some famous powerhouse. However, Chu Fengmian was just an unknown youngster. Dragon bloodline. Could it be that this person obtained a great opportunity in ancient Dragon Emperor Yan's cave? It's very possible that the opportunities in the 6 caves have already been obtained. It's also very possible that this person obtained the opportunity in ancient Dragon Emperor Yan's cave. Elderly looked at Chu Fengmian and thought inwardly. This person's strength is immeasurable. Once he passes the life and death calamity, he'll at least have the strength of a high-level life and death realm expert. Although this person is a disciple of the Northern Mang Academy, his reputation isn't well known. His position in the academy shouldn't be high. Now is the best chance to rope him in. Elderly carefully analyzed in his heart and was already thinking of how to rope Chu Fengmian in. The strength Chu Fengmian had displayed was equivalent to a high-level life and death realm expert after passing the life and death calamity. It was enough for the major forces to rope him in. Kacha! The surrounding void freeze was completely shattered by Chu Fengmian's palm. Chu Fengmian's palm didn't stop there. Instead, it directly bombarded Ouyang Lai. The boundless spiritual energy within the palm turned into numerous primordial battle dragons. Numerous primordial battle dragons intertwined with one another. It was much more mysterious than many dragon tribe martial skills. Feeling the power of this palm, Ouyang Lai's face completely changed. His face was pale, and his eyes were wide open. His eyeballs were about to fall out. Ouyang Lai had never imagined that his strongest technique, the Void Freeze, would be broken by a single palm strike like this. The power of this palm and the profoundness within it were much more profound than the countless martial skills he had seen before. Ouyang Lai retreated continuously in an attempt to dodge. However, the power of this palm had completely locked onto him. No matter where Ouyang Lai fled to, he would not be able to escape the power of this palm. How is that possible? I don't believe that I would be defeated by a nobody. Ouyang Lai roared at the top of his lungs. Waves of spiritual energy erupted from his body once again. The way of the Kuan Peng. Seal heaven and earth. Ouyang Lai's body began to swell. His body turned into feathers, and within the feathers there were ancient patterns. It actually showed the appearance of the ancient Kuan Peng. Streams of spatial force were unleashed from Ouyang Lai's body, sealing off the space around him to resist Chu Fengmian's attack. With Ouyang Lai's strength, he had never treated a divine power realm martial artist as his opponent. Now he had actually been defeated by a nobody like Chu Fengmian. This was simply a humiliation that he had never experienced in his life. Waves of light appeared from Ouyang Lai's body, supporting his strength. Under this anger, the power of his bloodline was squeezed to the extreme. He displayed all of his strength, wanting to contend against Chu Fengmian. Squeezing the power of your bloodline? Even if you squeeze it to the extreme and increase your strength by 5 or 10 times, you still won't be a match for me. Chu Fengmian looked at Ouyang Lai and said coldly, in front of me, you are just an ant. You dare to provoke me? Only death awaits you. Chu Fengmian slammed his palm down again. The power of this palm strike was 5 or 10 times stronger than the previous one. Ouyang Lai squeezed his strength to the extreme and sealed off the space. Under this palm strike, it was completely shattered. There was no possibility for him to resist. Sir, please have mercy. Elder Li's expression changed abruptly as he secretly transmitted his voice to Chu Fengmian. After all, this was the Sky Chamber of Commerce. If someone died here, it would be a great loss to the Sky Chamber of Commerce's reputation. Chu Fengmian glanced at Elder Li, who was beside him. The power in his hand gradually weakened. Kneel down. Chu Fengmian's palm struck down. The supreme power within it pressed down on Ouyang Lai's body, causing him to kneel down in front of Chu Fengmian. Damn it! Damn it! How can I be defeated? How can I be defeated by this brat? Brat, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to grind your bones to dust. Ouyang Lai knelt on the ground and roared at the top of his lungs. Now that he was defeated by Chu Fengmian and forced to kneel on the ground, he almost went crazy. With his status, when had he ever suffered such humiliation? I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill all of your family members. Friends, I'm going to let them die one by one in front of you. Kill, kill, kill. Ouyang Lai was firmly suppressed by Chu Fengmian's power. He knelt on the ground, but he didn't give up. He was still mobilizing the power in his body and attacking Chu Fengmian's power again and again. The power in Ouyang Lai's body seemed to be getting stronger and stronger. Every attack shook Chu Fengmian's power. Ouyang Lai lived up to his name as a famous genius in the Void Ocean. Under such humiliation, his strength had improved, and he had gained a new understanding of his strength. His strength was now much stronger than before. Brat, you're only making me stronger by suppressing me. Just you wait. I'll break through soon and kill you completely. Ouyang Lai looked at Chu Fengmian with extreme hatred. His eyes were fixed on Chu Fengmian as if he wanted to grind his bones to dust. Breakthrough? Ridiculous. Even if you were 100 times stronger, you still wouldn't be able to break through. Very well, I'll completely suppress you and make you forget about it. Chu Fengmian glanced at Ouyang Lai and snorted coldly. He gathered the power in his hand again and hit Ouyang Lai with his palm again. Ouyang Lai's body was trembling. This power was simply beyond his imagination. His face was filled with horror. All of Ouyang Lai's resistance was rendered meaningless by this palm strike. Today's first update. Although it's very late, there will definitely be an update. Chapter 565. How is this possible? How is this possible? Ouyang Lai's face was extremely lifeless. The battle intent that had just been ignited in his heart wanted to break through this adversity, break through Chu Fengmian's suppression, and kill him. But now, Ouyang Lai's face was filled with despair in front of this palm. No matter how Ouyang Lai tried to resist the power contained in this palm, it would be meaningless. Even if his strength increased by 5 or 10 times, he still wouldn't be able to resist. Ouyang Lai, this is the Sky Chamber of Commerce. I won't kill you, but since you dared to provoke me, you must pay the price. I'll take half of your saint's blood essence as compensation. Chu Fengmian looked at Ouyang Lai and said coldly, this was the Sky Chamber of Commerce. If he killed someone here, he would definitely have a conflict with the Sky Chamber of Commerce. The Sky Chamber of Commerce was one of the top 10 forces in the primordial chaos continent. Chu Fengmian still wanted to do business with the Sky Chamber of Commerce, so he naturally wouldn't offend the Sky Chamber of Commerce for nothing. However, Chu Fengmian would never let Ouyang Lai off. Anyone who dared to provoke Chu Fengmian had to pay the price. Taking half of Ouyang Lai's saint blood essence was enough to reduce his strength to that of an ordinary peak saint. It was equivalent to crippling Ouyang Lai's aptitude and making him unable to pass through a life and death tribulation for the rest of his life. For a genius like Ouyang Lai, taking his saint blood essence and crippling his aptitude was more painful than killing him. Little bastard, how dare you? Ouyang Lai suddenly roared when he heard Chu Fengmian's words. If you dare to touch me today, the Sky Alliance will definitely hunt you down. No matter how strong you are, You can't compete with the Sky Alliance. I advise you to be sensible and let me go obediently. Take out all your wealth and compensate me, and I can let you go." The Sky Alliance? Was the Sky Alliance? I've already said that in my opinion, the Sky Alliance is just a group of stray dogs. Suddenly, Chu Fengmian clawed at Ouyang Lai. "I originally want to give you a chance and take half of your blood essence. Since you don't know what's good for you, how dare you threaten me? Then I'll completely cripple you and take 90% of your blood essence so that you can never set foot in the void ocean again." Chu Fengmian snorted coldly and decisively grabbed at Ouyang Lai. Ouyang Lai screamed crazily as his saint blood essence was extracted by Chu Fengmian him directly. The saint's essence blood fell into Chu Fengmian's hand and turned into an incomparably pure spirit stone. Even if Ouyang Lai had the Sky Alliance behind him, Chu Fengmian would not care. He did not even use 30% of his strength to deal with Ouyang Lai. Ouyang Lai's body fell to the ground after 90% of his saint blood essence was extracted. To step. "Men, take him away. If I see him again, he'll die," Chu Fengmian said coldly as he looked at Ouyang Lai. A few Sky Alliance martialists hurriedly walked out from the crowd and took Ouyang Lai away. These Sky Alliance martialists were already scared out of their wits by Chu Fengmian's strength. They hurriedly left, not daring to contend with Chu Fengmian. Countless spectating martialists saw all this. They felt a chill in their hearts as they looked at Chu Fengmian with fear. What a ruthless method. Ouyang Lai is one of the upper echelons of the Sky Alliance. It's said that he's about to reach the limits of the divine power realm. He's about to cross the life and death tribulation. Once Ouyang Lai crosses the life and death tribulation, he'll be a high-level life and death realm martialist. Such a genius with a boundless future was actually crippled just like that. He's no different from a cripple after having 90% of his blood essence extracted. A martialist looked at Chu Fengmian as if he was scared out of his wits. Chu Fengmian's methods were too ruthless. A genius with a boundless future was crippled just like that. If it hadn't been done right in front of their eyes, they wouldn't have dared to imagine such a thing. Fortunately, we didn't provoke this person. Some martialists still had lingering fear in their hearts. Ouyang Lai wasn't the only one who wanted the 5 Dragon Blood Saint King elixirs. Originally, many of them had wanted to extort Chu Fengmian when they saw his unfamiliar face. But now, it seemed like he had saved their lives. Otherwise, they would have been crippled. The Sky Alliance behind Ouyang Lai isn't easy to deal with. Ouyang Lai has a very high position in the Sky Alliance. It's very likely that the people of the Sky Alliance will stand up for him. "Be careful," Bai Xian said softly to Chu Fengmian. After all, the Sky Alliance was one of the biggest forces in the Void Ocean. Even if there weren't many old men in the Sky Alliance, it was still a terrifying force when countless geniuses gathered together. Now that Chu Fengmian had crippled Ouyang Lai and extracted his blood essence, he had truly fallen out with the Sky Alliance. It doesn't matter. If anyone from the Sky Alliance dares to come, I'll kill them. If the Sky Alliance doesn't know what's good for them, I'll destroy them," Chu Fengmian said coldly. Such a crazy sentence sent chills down everyone's spines when they heard it. Crazy. This person is a complete lunatic. Arrogant. Too arrogant. How is it possible for one person to shake the Sky Alliance? Forget it. In a few days, this person will die in the hands of the Sky Alliance. Only death awaits him after offending the Sky Alliance. Countless martialists looked at Chu Fengmian as if he was a lunatic. The Sky Alliance was one of the biggest forces in the Void Ocean. There were thousands of Sky Alliance disciples. No matter how strong one person was, how could he contend with a major force? Only Bai Xian knew that Chu Fengmian was always a man of his words. Bai Xian even believed that if the Sky Alliance really offended Chu Fengmian, the Sky Alliance wouldn't be far from being destroyed. Chu Fengmian had always been a man of his words. Chu Fengmian didn't pay attention to the discussions of others. Instead, he turned his head and spoke to Elderly. "Elderly, I have a business deal to discuss with the Sky Alliance. I wonder if the Sky Alliance will do it." "Of course, we will do it. Elderly was stunned for a moment before he spoke. Let's go to a quiet place first. With that, Elderly led Chu Fengmian to a palace. Chapter 566. This palace was located at the center of Sky Chamber of Commerce, but it was extremely quiet. The surroundings were filled with countless restrictions that sealed off this spiritual sense, making it impossible for the people outside to hear what was going on inside. Many businesses naturally had to be done in secret. The Sky Chamber of Commerce had done this flawlessly. Ordinary high-level life and death realm martial artists might not be able to pass through the restrictions with their spiritual sense. Only existences like the undying Demon Venerable could do so. However, experts at the undying Demon Venerable's level were all big shots. Who would dare to eavesdrop? Therefore, trading in this palace was naturally the safest place. Chu Fengmian arrived at the palace and sat on one of the thrones without any hesitation. Bai Xian also sat beside him. Elderly entered the palace and said to Chu Fengmian, "Sir, you were merciful just now. This old man thanks you in advance." "It's nothing. In Sky Chamber of Commerce, we naturally have to follow its rules. We won't kill anyone here." Chu Fengmian calmly said, "I've come to Sky Chamber of Commerce for a big business. I wonder if Sky Chamber of Commerce is interested." "Big business?" Elderly chuckled at Chu Fengmian's words. "May I know sir's name? This should be your first time in our Sky Chamber of Commerce, right?" Sky Chamber of Commerce was one of the largest forces in Primal Chaos Continent. There weren't many businesses that they couldn't do. Hearing Chu Fengmian's words, they naturally felt that Chu Fengmian was a newcomer. Elderly said with a smile, "Many high-level life and death realm experts come to our Sky Chamber of Commerce to do business. I wonder what sir needs." "Our Sky Chamber of Commerce has everything you need. Whether it's pills, spirit tools, materials, natural wonders, or even some information or bounties, we can do it all. My name is Chu Fengmian." "Not bad. This is my first time here." Chu Fengmian calmly said, "I'm planning to buy a batch of natural wonders as well as some body-refining pills." As Chu Fengmian spoke, he took out a list and handed it to Elderly. "Chu Fengmian?" Elderly thought for a moment upon hearing Chu Fengmian's name. He couldn't recall such a name among the experts of North Sea Academy. That meant that Chu Fengmian was a newly risen genius, or perhaps an unknown disciple who had suddenly risen to prominence. For such a person to suddenly possess such strength, he must have encountered a great opportunity. This kind of business was what the Sky Chamber of Commerce liked to do the most. Hearing Chu Fengmian's words, Elderly laughed loudly. "Heaven and earth oddities, body-tempering pills. Our Heavenly Trade Association has everything." As he spoke, Elderly took the list from Chu Fengmian. His eyes swept over the names on the list. Dragon Emperor Herb, Sky Crystal, Mother Earth's Divine Vitality. Every time he read one of the names, Elderly's face became more and more shocked. Every name on the list was an extremely high-grade existence among the heavenly wondrous objects. This was especially true for the Sky Crystal, which was simply a legendary name. If Elderly hadn't read a lot of books and seen this name in ancient books, he probably wouldn't have known what this Heaven Crystal was. Every name on the list was worth at least as much as a royal-grade spirit stone. Elderly opened his mouth after a long time. "There are many things on the list that I've only heard of but never seen. There are only 7 or 8 that our Heavenly Trade Association has. There are actually 7 or 8. This answer also made Chu Fengmian secretly shocked. The heavenly wondrous objects on the list were all useful to him. With Chu Fengmian's current strength, the wondrous objects that were truly useful to him were extremely high grade among the heavenly wondrous objects. Originally, Chu Fengmian thought that the Heavenly Trade Association would have 3 or 4 types of wondrous objects at most. He didn't expect there to be so many. The Heavenly Trade Association is located in the Primal Chaos Continent. The Void Sea is rich in wondrous objects. Now, I need to accumulate resources to raise my strength to the limit of the Divine Power Realm in preparation to survive the life and death tribulation. These wondrous objects will be of great use to me." Chu Fengmian thought to himself, but his face showed that he didn't think much of it. "Then bring them all over. I'll buy them all." This kind of nonchalant attitude made him look like a nouveau riche. These things are expensive. Are you sure you want to buy them? Elderly hesitated for a moment before reminding Chu Fengyan. I'm afraid that every one of them is more expensive than the Dragon Blood Saint King elixir. Of course. Chu Fengyan nodded. A king-grade spiritual stone appeared in his hand. This king-grade spiritual stone was the one that Chu Fengyan obtained from the ancient Dragon Emperor Yin Cave Mansion. Every piece had already been cut into the size of a transaction and was directly thrown to Elderly. This spiritual stone is a meeting gift from Chu Fengyan to Elderly. Elderly took the king-grade spiritual stone and took a closer look. The spiritual energy in it was extremely pure. The spiritual energy in this spiritual stone was almost without any impurities. It was a spiritual stone that couldn't be purer. It had surpassed the spiritual stones that martial artists could condense now. King-grade spiritual stone? This is a king-grade spiritual stone? Elderly looked at the king-grade spiritual stone in his hand and said in surprise, "This kind of king-grade spiritual stone can no longer be condensed now. Only some ancient cave mansions have king-grade spiritual stones. You actually have one?" Chu Fengyan smiled. He wasn't surprised by Elderly's surprise. In the primal chaos continent, the spiritual stones that were used for transactions were at most in the category of supreme spiritual stones. King-grade spiritual stones were extremely rare. They could only be found in some ancient cave mansions. A king-grade spirit stone could be considered a rare item in itself. Who would use a king-grade spirit stone to trade? That was why Elderly was so surprised. This king-grade spiritual stone is a meeting gift from me to Elderly. There are other spiritual stones that can be used for transactions. As Chu Fengyan spoke, he waved his hand. Dozens of spiritual stones appeared in front of him and flashed past. These dozens of spiritual stones were of a higher grade than the king-grade spiritual stone in Elderly's hand. A few of them had extremely pure spiritual energy, reaching the level of royal-grade spiritual stones. Royal-grade spiritual stones. Elderly's eyes were filled with astonishment. He was stunned for a moment before he hurriedly said, "Young Master Chu is indeed rich. The things that you want are extremely precious. They are in our Heavenly Trade Association's treasury. Why don't I bring young Master Chu to the treasury? You can choose whatever you want." Chapter 567. Elderly looked at Chu Fengyan as if he was looking at nouveau riche. Using king-grade spirit stones and royal-grade spirit stones to trade was an extremely extravagant act. King-grade spirit stones and royal-grade spirit stones would be auctioned if they were taken out. Using them as currency to trade was simply insane. Only Chu Fengyan, who had unlimited wealth and could directly condense spirit stones, would do such a thing. If they could trade for these king-grade spirit stones and royal-grade spirit stones, it would be enough to bring great benefits to the Heavenly Trade Association. If young Master Chu wants to trade with king-grade spirit stones, we can also give you the lowest price." Elderly hurriedly said, fearing that Chu Fengyan would not agree. "All right, let's go take a look." Chu Fengyan said calmly. "All right, let's go." Elderly nodded and brought Chu Fengyan and Bai Xian through space. They arrived in front of a stone chamber. "Oh, this is a stone room?" Chu Fengyan observed the stone chamber and discovered that it was actually built with a type of heavenly rock crystal, a wondrous material from the heavens. Heavenly rock crystal was an extremely special kind of crystal. It was extremely sturdy, but difficult to condense. It was considered a relatively low-grade, extraordinary item, but it was extremely extravagant for the Heavenly Trade Association to build a treasury with heavenly rock crystal. Even if Chu Fengyan used all his strength, he would not be able to break this treasury. "Young Master Chu, please follow me." Elderly came to the door of the stone room and activated the restriction on it. The door of the stone room opened with a loud bang. Elderly led Chu Fengyan into the room. Upon entering the stone chamber, one could see countless shelves at a glance. Countless mysterious objects were neatly arranged on them. Chu Fengyan glanced over and saw that a few of them were on his list. "Bring them all over." Chu Fengyan pointed at 7 or 8 extraordinary items and said, these extraordinary items were all useful for Chu Fengyan to condense his body. Chu Fengyan's strength had reached the limit, but his body was far from it. Chu Fengmian could already feel that his life and death calamity was no small matter. One must know that when Chu Fengmian broke through to the divine force realm, he had attracted the 10,000 Thunder Emperor calamity. If it was a life or death calamity, it might be even more terrifying than the 10,000 Thunder Emperor's calamity. The life and death calamity was a life and death struggle. If one failed, they would die on the spot. The more talented a genius was, the more dangerous it would be. Chu Fengmian's power had already reached its limit, but his body was far from it. Chu Fengmian had to push his body to its limit in order to survive this life and death tribulation. All right, Elderly didn't waste his breath. He directly took out the 7 or 8 strange objects from the air, removed the restrictions on them, and handed them over to Chu Fengmian. The value of these items will be calculated together in the future. If young Master Chu needs anything else, feel free to choose. Chu Fengmian nodded his head and took the treasures. Then, he began to scan the treasures in the treasury. Suddenly, his eyes looked at one of the enormous eggs. This egg was 5 to 6 meters long. In the treasury, it occupied a large area. There were strange patterns on its surface, emitting waves of pure spiritual energy. There was even a faint dragon might in this spiritual energy. The moment Chu Fengmian saw the egg, a trace of light flashed in his eyes. This is a dragon egg. It was obtained by a big shot of our Sky Chamber of Commerce. However, there is no life force in this dragon egg, so it can't be hatched. It only contains some spiritual energy, which is why it was placed in the treasury. Elderly said, if young Master Chu wants this dragon egg, you only need to pay 10 king grade spirit stones. 10 king grade spiritual stones. Isn't that price a little too high? Chu Fengmian frowned and said, after all, there is no life force in this dragon egg. Elderly explained, there is still some spiritual energy left in it, so it's not impossible to hatch it. Once it hatches, a true dragon, as a spirit beast, can be nurtured to be comparable to a high-level life and death expert. A dragon egg without life force, and you want to hatch it? How is that possible? Chu Fengmian looked at Elderly and shook his head. At most, 3 king grade spirit stones. I cultivate Dragon Clan martial skills, so I can comprehend the Dragon Clan's true essence from this dragon egg. If it's more expensive, it won't be worth it. A dragon egg without life force. Apart from this, it has no other use. 3 king grade spirit stones. Elder Li's eyes flickered, as if he was considering something. Then he said, if young Master Chu wants to settle with king grade spirit stones, that's fine. Sure. Chu Fengmian didn't waste any time and directly put the dragon egg into his spatial ring. Then he lost interest in looking at the other treasures. He turned around and left the stone room. These treasures are 52 king grade spirit stones. Young Master Chu only needs 50 king grade spirit stones. Elderly said excitedly. 50 king grade spirit stones were equivalent to 500,000 lower grade spirit stones. It was definitely a big deal. Their Heavenly Chamber of Commerce didn't have such a big deal every day. In fact, they wouldn't have such a big deal for several years. This business deal was extremely beneficial to Elderly. All right, Chu Fengmian said calmly. He took out a big king grade spirit stone from his hand. This piece of king grade spirit stone could be cut into about 50 pieces. He handed it over to Elderly. Elderly carefully took the king grade spirit stone and put it into his spatial ring. Then, he let out a sigh of relief. If there's anything on the list that you need, you can let me know. The price is not a problem. Chu Fengmian looked at Elderly and said, his current wealth was endless. He could exchange it for countless treasures to improve his strength. No matter how much wealth he had, it was meaningless without strength. Chu Fengmian needed to improve his strength to survive the life and death tribulation. The treasures that young Master Chu wants are all extremely valuable. Our Heavenly Chamber of Commerce has accumulated these treasures for thousands of years. However, if young Master Chu doesn't care about the price, there will be a huge auction tonight. Elderly said, in this auction, there will be many treasures produced by the 6 ancient cave dwellings. However, with young Master Chu's wealth, you don't have to care about it. You can try your luck. After staying up until 5 o'clock, he finally finished writing the 4th chapter. He was so sleepy that he decided to continue writing after waking up. Chapter 568. Auction. Chu Fengmian's eyes lit up. With his enormous wealth, he naturally had to attend such an auction. Especially in this auction, there would be countless wondrous items produced from the ancient caverns. Chu Fengmian's extravagant purchases would be enough to raise his strength. That's right. Our Sky Chamber of Commerce will also attend this auction. If young Master Chu doesn't mind, you can come with this old man. Elderly looked at Chu Fengmian and said, "The quota for this auction has already been set. There are no more vacancies. However, with our Sky Chamber of Commerce's status, it won't be difficult for us to bring young Master Chu in." The deal between Chu Fengmian and Elderly had brought great benefits to the latter. Now that he heard that Chu Fengmian intended to attend the auction, Elderly directly invited him to accompany him. "Thank you so much, Elderly," Chu Fengmian nodded. Sky Chamber of Commerce was, after all, the local tyrant of the primal chaos continent. If he went with Elderly, it would save him a lot of trouble. It won't be long before night falls. Let's go. Elderly didn't waste any time and turned into a streak of light. This auction is being held by the number 1 Chamber of Commerce in the primal chaos continent, Sky Reaching Pavilion. However, it's actually jointly held by countless chambers of commerce in the primal chaos continent. While walking, Elderly explained to Chu Fengmian, "This auction is held once every 3 years. Although the scale is large, there are still vacancies from the previous auctions. However, all the vacancies have already been set. Because of the opening of the 6 great ancient caverns, countless wondrous items have appeared. Many big shots who aren't usually in the Void Ocean have come. Even some big shots from the western and central regions have come." Hearing this, Chu Fengmian inwardly nodded. The news of the opening of the ancient caverns was indeed enough to make the entire 9 regions go crazy, especially for a legendary big shot like Dragon Emperor Yengu. His caverns were likely enough to attract terrifying experts beyond the life and death realm. Fortunately, Chu Fengmian had received the news in advance and rushed over immediately. Only then could he collect so many treasures. Otherwise, if he really encountered those old fogies beyond the life and death realm, he wouldn't have any chance of competing with them. "Young Master Chu, you must have benefited greatly from the ancient cave abode," Elderly said quietly, as if he was chatting casually, but there was a hint of probing. "That's right. In this ancient cave mansion, I have indeed obtained quite a fortune." Chu Fengmian didn't try to hide it at all. He was like a nouveau riche. With so much wealth on him, everyone knew that Chu Fengmian must have encountered a great opportunity. Since that was the case, he might as well reveal it openly. With his current strength, there weren't many people who could pose a threat to his life. Chu Fengmian and Elderly chatted as they arrived in front of the city gates of the Heavenly Merchant Association. 7 or 8 figures immediately appeared around them the moment they stepped into the Heavenly Merchant Association. These people blocked Chu Fengmian's path to the Sky Chamber of Commerce. These figures were all young martial artists. Each of them had a dignified appearance, and each of them was extremely talented. The strength of these people was not below the top 10 of the North Mang Academy's Earth ranking. They are from the Sky Alliance. Why are they suddenly blocking the entrance of the Sky Chamber of Commerce? Look, that's Ouyang Lai. How can his aura be so weak? His essence blood has been extracted. Who is so crazy to extract Ouyang Lai's essence blood? Look, that's Flood Yu. He's one of the deputy lords of the Sky Alliance. A big shot of the Sky Alliance has come. Seeing countless Sky Alliance disciples appear in front of the Sky Chamber of Commerce, a commotion broke out. Now, so many people from the Sky Alliance had gathered here. Even the deputy lord of the Sky Alliance, Flood Yu, had appeared. Flood Yu? Chu Fengmian glanced at Flood Yu, who was a ferocious-looking man. Flood Yu's aura was even stronger than Ouyang Lai's. Especially Chu Fengmian. He could feel that Flood Yu had only shown a small part of his strength. He had hidden his strength very well. He probably had countless tricks up his sleeve. "Boy, you finally came out." Ouyang Lai looked at Chu Fengmian and walked out of the Sky Chamber of Commerce with a ferocious face. "Alliance Lord Hong, it's this boy." He He's the one who injured you and extracted your saint blood essence. When Han Yu heard Ouyang Lai's words, he suddenly turned to Chu Fengyan and glared at him. You're the one who injured Ouyang Lai and extracted his saint blood essence? His eyes seemed to contain endless murderous intent. Just looking into his eyes was enough to make one feel terror in one's heart. If it had been a slightly weaker cultivator, just looking at Flood Prison would have been enough to make them run for their lives. However, Chu Fengyan didn't care. He had a firm mind. No matter how strong a warrior was, he wouldn't be afraid. That's right. Chu Fengyan spat out 2 words. What he did was what he did. He didn't need to hide anything. Do you know that Ouyang Lai is a member of our Sky Alliance? Flood Yu's murderous intent surged when he heard Chu Fengyan's words. Then how dare you extract his saint blood essence? Now, kneel down and apologize to Ouyang Lai. Then, destroy your cultivation and hand over all the wealth in your empty ring. If you do that, I'll leave you with a whole corpse. Chu Fengyan was speechless when he heard Flood Yu's words. Flood Yu's words were extremely arrogant. Asking Chu Fengyan to kneel down and apologize, destroy his cultivation, hand over all the wealth, and leave him with a whole corpse? No one can make Chu Fengyan do that. Even if someone could, it wasn't Flood Yu. Are all the members of the Sky Alliance idiots? Chu Fengyan sneered. Who do you think you are? How dare you order me around? Aren't you afraid of biting your tongue? Now, I'll give you a chance. If all of you kneel down and hand over all the wealth in your empty ring, I won't extract your saint blood essence. That's the price for offending me. What do you think? Chu Fengyan's words caused an uproar. The Sky Alliance was one of the most powerful forces in the primordial continent. Flood Yu was a big shot in the Sky Alliance. He was the deputy Alliance Lord. In the primordial continent, the Sky Alliance had always been the one bullying others. They had never been bullied. Courting death? Flood Yu's face suddenly changed. His eyes were burning with anger. Suddenly, he struck out a palm. Chapter 569. Flood Prison made his move. He struck out with his palm. The moment his palm was formed, countless black fog appeared around him. This black fog was not a demonic will, but something even more sinister, something extremely evil. Surrounded by the black fog, Flood Prison struck out with his palm. Countless people felt a chill in their hearts when they saw this scene, as if they had fallen into an incomparable fear. Purgatory, demonic palm. Beside Chu Fengyan, Bai Xian's expression changed when she saw the palm strike. This is Flood Prison's ultimate skill. It is said that he once had a great adventure in the Void Ocean and learned the Purgatory demonic technique. This Purgatory demonic technique is even more terrifying than the Eternal Demon Domain. Once it is used, one will be tortured to death by endless pain. Once the Purgatory demonic palm struck a martial artist's body, they would suffer endless pain. This pain was enough to make many martial artists with weak wills die from the pain. The pain of the Purgatory demonic technique was not only physical, but also spiritual. Even a saint would not be able to withstand it. Brat, prepare to suffer endless pain. I will make you beg for death. Flood Prison smiled malevolently. He wanted to use the Purgatory demonic technique to thoroughly torture Chu Fengyan. How dare you show off in front of me after knowing some trash demonic techniques? Chu Fengyan looked at Flood Prison's palm strike with an extremely calm expression. Little demonic technique. Break. Roar. Chu Fengyan spat out a word indifferently. A dragon's roar suddenly resounded. The dragon's roar contained the purest dragon might of the war dragon. The power of the ancient war dragon could restrain all evils. The Purgatory demonic technique could not escape the possibility of being restrained. Although the Purgatory demonic technique was powerful, it was not very effective in front of Chu Fengyan's war dragon might. Along with the dragon's roar, the palm strike formed by Flood Prison's Purgatory demonic technique immediately dissipated. All the power contained within it was directly neutralized. All the surrounding martial artists were shocked. Flood Prison had not shown any mercy when he attacked. Instead, it could be said that he had used his full strength, including the Purgatory demonic technique. At the very least, he intended to kill Chu Fengyan with this move. Among the divine power realm martialists in the Void Ocean, there were less than 10 people who could block this purgatory demonic palm. Many of them had to pay a great price to block it. Just like that, a single word from his mouth was enough to dissolve the power of the purgatory demonic palm. This was simply unheard of and unseen. Where did this person come from? First, he defeated Ouyang Lai and extracted Ouyang Lai's Saint Blood essence. Now, he's strong enough to contend against Flood Prison. We've never heard of such a person in the northern region. To be able to contend against Flood Prison, this person's strength is indeed terrifying. However, the fact that he was able to neutralize Flood Prison's Inferno Hell Devil Art isn't because of how powerful he is. Rather, it's because his cultivation technique seems to be able to neutralize Flood Prison's Inferno Hell Devil Art. Let's wait and see. Flood Prison's strength is not that simple. He is a major character of the Heavenly Alliance. Even if he does not possess the Purgatory Demonic Art, he is still a major character. This short exchange of blows caused countless discussions. A major character of the Heavenly Alliance like Flood Prison rarely took action. No one had expected that Chu Fengnian would be able to withstand his attack. This greatly surprised countless people. However, no one was optimistic about Chu Fengnian's strength. Flood Prison's strength was not as simple as it seemed. Although the Purgatory Demonic Art was restrained, Flood Prison was still a terrifying character even without using the Purgatory Demonic Art. In everyone's opinion, how many moves could Chu Fengnian withstand from Flood Prison? Dragon Clan's martial technique? Flood Prison instantly understood when he saw Flood Prison's Inferno Hell Devil Art being neutralized. The Dragon Clan's martial technique was indeed extremely restrained against all demonic techniques. His Purgatory Demonic Art was indeed naturally restrained by the Dragon Clan's martial technique. Chu Fengnian looked at Flood Prison and shook his head. His eyes were filled with disdain. Is this all the strength of the Heavenly Alliance's people? That's a little disappointing. Arrogant. Flood Prison suddenly roared when he heard Chu Fengnian's words. His tone was filled with murderous intent. Boy, it seems like you've really had some fortuitous encounters. So what if you know some Dragon Clan's martial technique? Even without the Purgatory Demonic Art, you're just an ant in front of me. Army. Suddenly, a pitch-black stick condensed in Flood Prison's hand. The pitch-black stick appeared out of nowhere and smashed towards Chu Fengnian. Although this strike seemed ordinary, it was actually split into thousands and thousands of phantoms. Each of the phantoms was illusory, making it hard to tell whether they were real or fake. 3,000 phantoms. Flood Prison's army Dao. It has reached such a level. Each of the 3,000 phantoms is half real and half fake. Each of them could be real. If you want to resist it, you must resist all 3,000 phantoms. Everyone was shocked when they saw Flood Prison's means. This move was indeed very powerful. Unless one could resist all 3,000 phantoms at the same time, one would be besieged. In a confrontation of this level, falling into a disadvantageous position was like being consigned to eternal damnation. It was very difficult to turn the tables, and one could only be defeated. Boy, you've infuriated me. Now, you'll pay the price for my anger. Die. Flood Prison roared ferociously. The 3,000 black stick phantoms fell at the same time. 3,000 phantoms? How dare you talk nonsense? Ridiculous. Chu Fengnian strode forward. Facing the 3,000 black stick phantoms, he did not dodge. Instead, he met them head-on. What is he going to do? Is he going to resist the 3,000 phantoms? This man is courting death. It's hard to escape from the 3,000 phantoms. How can he resist the 3,000 with his own strength? Facing the 3,000 phantoms, ordinary people would only think of running away. They would try to avoid facing the phantoms as much as possible. This kind of head-on confrontation was simply a madman's behavior. Even Elderly furrowed his brows. He knew about Flood Prison's 3,000 phantoms. The most powerful part of this move was the frontal attack. Facing the 3,000 phantoms head-on, a divine power realm martial artist. He would die. Sword. Everyone looked at Chu Fengnian. feeling that he would be smashed into meat paste by the 3,000 phantoms in the next moment. Chu Fengmian called out softly. In his hand was a sword condensed from sword intent. 10,000 layers, one sword. The moment Chu Fengmian's sword tip fell, the sword chi within it suddenly erupted. Chapter 570. Whoosh! In an instant, Chu Fengmian's sword fell. In an instant, tens of thousands of sword chi struck out at the same time. Everything around seemed to be trapped in countless sword chi. The whole space turned into a world of swords. What? The crowd couldn't believe it. Tens of thousands of sword chi. Just now, Chu Fengmian's sword was divided into tens of thousands of sword chi. In terms of the comprehension of weapon Dao, Chu Fengmian's sword Dao even surpassed Flood, used 3,000 phantoms. How is this possible? 10,000 sword chi. This is the legendary realm. Countless sword Dao grandmasters in the northern region have not reached this level. Where did this man come from? How can he have such a terrifying sword Dao? Some of the sword cultivators in the crowd went crazy when they saw Chu Fengmian's sword Dao. 10,000 sword chi was definitely a realm that countless sword cultivators in the 9 regions dreamed of. Countless people were mad with jealousy. Hong Yu's expression changed drastically when he saw the 10,000 sword aura. However, he regained his confidence in the blink of an eye. So what if you're strong in sword Dao? If you don't have enough strength, it's just a showy but impractical move. Real strength is the king. Watch how my 3,000 phantoms destroy your sword Dao. Break! Flood Yu's spiritual power was fully displayed. All of it was added to his 3,000 phantoms. He wanted to break 10,000 with one force. He wanted to win with strength. Seeing this, Chu Fengmian sneered in his heart. Chu Fengmian was not afraid, even if it was a competition of strength. Do you think you're my opponent because you want to compete with me in strength? From the moment you dare to provoke me, you are doomed to lose. Chu Fengmian's face was extremely calm. With a thought, he activated 10,000 sword chi and attacked at the same time. Boom! 3,000 phantoms and 10,000 sword chi collided in the air. The aftermath was extremely terrifying. It was not inferior to the full strength of many warriors present. The collision was extremely fierce, but the outcome was decided in an instant, only to see that there were still 10,000 streaks of sword energy. All of the power within the 3,000 illusions of flood hell was devoured by the 10,000 streams of sword chi. Not just in terms of martial comprehension, but in terms of strength as well. When everyone saw this scene, they were all stunned. Everyone present was well aware of Flood Prison's strength. Everyone was already incomparably shocked that he had lost in the comprehension of martial arts. However, it was not incomprehensible for some geniuses in the sword Dao to appear in the northern region. After all, a genius was still a genius. No matter how high one's comprehension of the sword Dao was, without strength, it was meaningless. However, to be able to break through Flood Prison's 3,000 illusions, this was no longer just a matter of martial Dao comprehension surpassing Flood Prison. In terms of power, Chu Fengmian even surpassed Flood Prison. How could the Deputy Alliance Master of the Sky Alliance be so weak? This thought suddenly appeared in the hearts of some warriors. No one could believe that a person who had always been close to being invincible had actually lost so miserably. However, the great majority of the crowd had their gazes fixed on Chu Fengmian. It wasn't that Flood Prison was weak. He was invincible in the outside world, but Chu Fengmian was too strong. Chu Fengmian's strength was strong enough to crush Flood Prison. That was why Flood Prison was defeated so miserably. Impossible. I've had countless fortuitous encounters. How could I lose? Flood Prison roared crazily, as if he was still unable to accept the scene before his eyes. He had never imagined that he would be defeated by Chu Fengmian. In Flood Prison's opinion, Chu Fengmian was just a nobody who wasn't even qualified to make him take him seriously. How could he have imagined that he would be defeated so thoroughly by Chu Fengmian? He had no strength to fight back at all. I've said it before, you're just an ant before me. No one in the divine power realm can contend against me. Chu Fengmian looked at Flood Prison and said coldly, "Since you've offended me, you'll suffer the same fate as Ouyang Lai. Kneel before me." Boom! As Chu Fengmian spoke, an extremely terrifying pressure appeared from his body. It was like a mountain that crazily raised Chu Fengmian's body, making him look like a colossus. Endless dragon power gushed out from Chu Fengmian's body as if he was the Dragon Emperor. Waves of dragon power pressed down on Flood Prison, causing him to spit out a mouthful of blood. "Damn it, bastard. You want me to kneel? Impossible. I'm a real genius. I'll definitely become a great figure in the future. Only people kneel before me. No one can make me kneel before them." Flood Prison roared crazily. He gathered all his spiritual power to contend against Chu Fengmian. "Boy, you've offended me. The Sky Alliance will never let you go in the future. Let me go now. This is your only way out." The Sky Alliance? If the people of the Sky Alliance are all idiots like you, then the Sky Alliance has no right to exist. Chu Fengmian's eyes revealed some disdain when he heard Flood Prison's words. How dare Flood Prison threaten him when he was at death's door? "Kneel." Chu Fengmian waved his hand, and a terrifying pressure pressed down on Flood Prison's body. The pressure broke the bones of Flood Prison's knees and forced him to kneel on the ground. Puff! Han Yu spat out a mouthful of blood. He was on the verge of fainting. Almost everyone could not believe their eyes when they saw Flood Prison kneeling on the ground. Who would have thought that the deputy leader of the Sky Alliance, Flood Prison, would be defeated and forced to kneel on the ground? He could not resist at all. It was impossible for him to even escape. Flood Prison is kneeling on the ground. He's crazy. He's really crazy. Are we dreaming? Even in our dreams, we wouldn't have thought of this. Where did this man come from? Beimang Academy? I've never heard of such a person in Beimang Academy. Could he be secretly trained by Beimang Academy? Countless onlookers seemed to wake up from a dream. Flood Prison's defeat was like a clap of thunder that exploded in their hearts. Now that Flood Prison was on his knees, they came to their senses and realized that Flood Prison's defeat was not fake. "Flood Prison, didn't you want me to destroy my cultivation? Since you've offended me, I'll let you be like Ouyang Lai and take 90% of your Saint's Essence blood as compensation." Chu Fengmian looked at Flood Prison and sneered. Suddenly, he clawed at Flood Yu's body with his big hand. Chapter 571. Stop! Almost at the same time, countless martial skills suddenly bombarded Chu Fengmian. The remaining disciples of the Sky Alliance could not bear it any longer. All of them attacked. A total of 7 disciples of the Sky Alliance joined forces and bombarded Chu Fengmian with countless martial techniques. When the 7 Heavenly Alliance disciples worked together, the power contained in the countless martial techniques was several times stronger than Flood Prison's. Almost every disciple of the Sky Alliance was an outstanding lone wanderer in the Void Ocean. Their strength was not inferior to the top 10 martial artists of the Beimang Academy's Innergate Earth list. How terrifying would the power of 7 such geniuses be when they joined forces? The 7 of them joined forces and displayed their supreme mystery to bombard Chu Fengmian. Their intention was to save Flood Yu from Chu Fengmian. "Chu Fengmian, let Flood Yu go now, and we can let you go this time. Otherwise, you won't be a match for us if the 7 of us join forces." A disciple of the Sky Alliance looked at Chu Fengmian and said coldly, "No matter how strong you are, you're only one person after all. Our Sky Alliance is a colossus. You know what to choose." Countless people present were not surprised that the disciples of the Sky Alliance suddenly attacked. The Sky Alliance had always been a whole. The strength of the Sky Alliance was not the strength of one person, but the strength of the whole alliance. In the Void Ocean, there were divine power realm martial artists who could defeat Flood Yu. However, no matter how strong they were, they could not compete with a force. No matter how strong they were incomparably weak in front of a force. Many people looked at Chu Fengmian and thought that Chu Fengmian had to know when to advance and when to retreat. Chu Fengmian had been in the limelight by defeating Flood Yu. If he retreated now, although the limelight would be suppressed, he could still retreat unscathed. However, if Chu Fengmian did not retreat now, not to mention the whole Sky Alliance, Even if the 7 disciples of the Sky Alliance joined forces, they would not be a match for any divine power realm martial artist. Many ants could kill an elephant. Moreover, these disciples of the Sky Alliance were all elites. They were not ants. Young Master Chu, retreat when necessary. Elder Li, who was standing aside, whispered to Chu Fengmian. He did not want to see Chu Fengmian clash with the Sky Alliance. After all, no matter how powerful Chu Fengmian was, how could he fight against the Sky Alliance alone? With Chu Fengmian's current strength, as long as he did not take the initiative to provoke the Heaven Alliance, the Heaven Alliance would not take revenge on Chu Fengmian. Retreating now was the best choice. However, under this kind of threat, there was no way he would back down. Chu Fengmian would never do that. In his previous life, he wouldn't. In this life, he still wouldn't. Heavenly Alliance? Behemoth? A bunch of ants gathered together. Do they really think they can overturn the heavens? Chu Fengmian suddenly laughed out loud. He looked at the 7 people and said coldly, "The people of the Sky Alliance are indeed idiots. Since you want to save Flood you should kneel down like him." While speaking, Chu Fengmian's palm suddenly moved, and a surge of dragon power condensed in his palm. Immediately, his right hand transformed into a huge war dragon claw, which descended from the sky and smashed downwards. While condensing the war dragon claw, Chu Fengmian's left hand directly clawed at Flood Yu's head. Flood Yu's body began to tremble. His spiritual power began to fluctuate, and all his saint blood essence was about to be drawn out. Damn it, this guy is too arrogant. Let's attack together and crack his Dragon Clan martial technique. Then we can save Deputy Alliance Leader Flood Yu. Kill. Kill. How dare he fight against the Sky Alliance? Even if he has 10 lives, he will die today. The disciples of the Sky Alliance roared crazily when they saw Chu Fengmian's attack. They all unleashed their spiritual force, which transformed into countless mystical martial skills. These martial techniques bombarded the War Dragon Claw at the same time, try to resist the power of the War Dragon Claw. "You're courting death." Chu Fengmian spat out 2 words indifferently. These 2 simple words had sentenced all the disciples of the Sky Alliance to death. Boom! The scales on the huge War Dragon Claw were engraved with countless runes. These runes contained mysterious power. Suddenly, the power of the War Dragon Claw increased by more than 10 times. No matter how many ants join forces, they can't fight against the War Dragon. War Dragon Claw, shatter everything. Chu Fengmian roared, and the War Dragon Claw fell from the sky. The powerful aura engulfed everyone present, especially the 7 disciples of the Sky Alliance. They were almost immobilized by the power of the War Dragon Claw. They couldn't resist the terrifying power at all. Boom! The War Dragon Claw collided with the martial techniques of the 7 disciples of the Sky Alliance. These incomparably mysterious martial skills were actually unable to shatter a single scale on the War Dragon's claw. They were unable to shake it at all. The War Dragon Claw exerted a little force, and the martial techniques of the 7 disciples of the Sky Alliance were all shattered. In terms of power, they were not on the same level. Kneel. The strong spiritual energy contained in the Battle Dragon Claw turned into a terrifying pressure and crashed down. The bodies of the 7 disciples of the Sky Alliance cracked under the pressure. Their bones were about to be crushed. In an instant, they all knelt on the ground. The 7 disciples of the Sky Alliance knelt in front of Chu Fengmian in an orderly manner. Almost everyone present held their breaths. They didn't even dare to breathe loudly. When the 7 disciples of the Sky Alliance joined forces, even Flood Prison couldn't resist such a terrifying power. But now it only took one move. The 7 disciples of the Sky Alliance were defeated by Chu Fengmian and knelt on the ground. Could this be his true strength? When he fought against Flood Prison earlier, he was merely playing around. A martial artist muttered to himself in a daze. The power of the War Dragon Claw was several times stronger than when Chu Fengmian defeated Flood Prison. This meant that Chu Fengmian didn't use his full strength when he defeated Flood Prison. He was just playing around. If Chu Fengmian used his full strength from the beginning, everyone present would be suppressed by him in one move. 7 disciples of the Sky Alliance couldn't resist Chu Fengmian's one move. Who would believe it? Invincible. This was a real invincible figure. There were many invincible figures in the divine power realm in the Void Ocean. However, those people were all laughable existences in front of Chu Fengmian. This man is invincible in the divine power realm. A martial artist muttered to himself, which represented the thoughts of everyone present. Chapter 572. The news of this battle would spread throughout the Void Ocean within a day. Chu Fengmian's name would resound in every corner of the Void Ocean. Kid, don't be complacent. You've offended the Sky Alliance by asking us to kneel down. Do you think you're invincible in the divine power realm? Our Alliance Master is powerful enough to kill a life and death realm expert. He's a real big shot. You've angered him, so you'll die. A Sky Alliance disciple knelt on the ground motionlessly, his face flushed red. He felt humiliated by the gazes of the surrounding martial artists. Even so, he was unwilling to admit defeat. He believed that the Alliance Master of the Sky Alliance would definitely kill Chu Fengmian to avenge them. In the hearts of all the Sky Alliance disciples, the Alliance Master was the real invincible figure. That's right, kid. Even if you run to the ends of the earth, you'll still die. Another disciple of the Sky Alliance roared. Is that so? Chu Fengmian sneered and waved his hand. A hole suddenly appeared on the chests of all the Sky Alliance disciples. Chu Fengmian directly extracted the essence blood of countless saints and fused it into his body. The Alliance Master of the Sky Alliance? If he comes, he'll end up the same as you. Chu Fengmian sneered. What Alliance Master of the Sky Alliance? Powerful enough to kill a life and death realm expert? Chu Fengmian could even kill the immortal demon Venerable. A Alliance Master of the Sky Alliance was nothing to him. Moreover, as long as Chu Fengmian's strength improved and his body reached perfection, he would be able to pass the life and death tribulation. Once he passed the life and death tribulation, Chu Fengmian would be able to do whatever he wanted in the North region. All of you kneel here. I want everyone to know the consequences of provoking me. Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian snorted and turned to Elderly beside him. Let's go to the auction. Elderly glanced at the Sky Alliance disciples kneeling on the ground. He hesitated for a moment, but didn't say anything. He left with Chu Fengmian and Bai Xian. Countless people didn't breathe a sigh of relief until Chu Fengmian's figure was far away. Chu Fengmian's methods were too ruthless. Not only did he defeat the Sky Alliance disciples, but he also extracted their saint blood essences, including the Deputy Alliance Master, Hong Yu. He had extracted 90% of their saint blood essence, which meant that these Sky Alliance disciples had all become useless. This was a great loss for the Sky Alliance. Especially now, all the Sky Alliance disciples were kneeling on the ground. In front of the Heavenly Chamber of Commerce's city gates, it was an extremely crowded place. Everyone could see this scene. In the Void Ocean, Chu Fengmian was the only one who dared to deal with the Sky Alliance. So what? Even the Deputy Alliance Master, Hong Yu, was defeated by him. The Sky Alliance can't take revenge even if they want to. Hong Yu is nothing. The most terrifying person in the Sky Alliance is their Alliance Master. The Sky Alliance was established by the Alliance Master. It's hard to say if the Alliance Master takes action. Don't worry so much. Anyway, the Sky Alliance bullies us a lot. We just need to watch the show. The crowd of onlookers also gradually dispersed. Only a portion of them had dispersed. However, everyone knew that there was another terrifying genius in the Void Ocean. On the other side, Elderly led Chu Fengmian and Bai Xian to the center of the Primal Chaos Continent. The auction of the Primal Chaos Continent was held by the top force of the Primal Chaos Continent, the Sky Reaching Pavilion. The Sky Reaching Pavilion was located in the center of the Primal Chaos Continent. Chu Fengmian, the Alliance Master of the Sky Alliance, is indeed not a simple person. As they flew, Bai Xian thought to herself, the Alliance Master of the Sky Alliance is called Hun Songxing. I've heard his name before. It's said that he has indeed killed high-level life and death realm experts. His strength is unfathomable. You have to be careful. Oh, he can kill high-level life and death realm experts in the divine power realm. This strength is indeed not bad. However, if he dares to provoke me, I'll make him pay the price." Chu Fengyan said with a smile. He didn't care at all. His strength was almost invincible in the divine power realm. Chu Fengyan didn't believe that there was any divine power realm expert who could be his match. Moreover, if Chu Fengyan bought some rare items from the auction house, it would be enough to condense his body to the extreme. At that time, Chu Fengyan might be able to contend against some old antiques among the high-level life and death realm experts. As long as I can find enough rare items and arrange the sacred sacrifice, my body will soon reach the extreme of the divine power realm. Chu Fengyan thought of the dragon egg in the empty ring and felt extremely excited. It was Chu Fengyan's good luck to be able to come across this dragon egg. This dragon egg was indeed a dead egg without any vitality. However, it wasn't the egg of a true dragon, but an egg of nirvana. Even powerful existences would fall one day. If one wanted to contend against time, the only way was to be reborn through nirvana. This nirvana Tao had been passed down since ancient times. When some experts reached the end of their lifespan, they would condense all the energy in their body into a single point and be reborn through nirvana, in exchange for another lifetime of lifespan. Chu Fengyan could feel that this dragon egg was the result of a dragon clan expert's nirvana rebirth. However, this expert had failed in nirvana rebirth and lost his vitality. The nirvana Tao was a heaven-defying path. The chances of success were less than 10%. Although the powerhouses within had lost their vitality, the spiritual energy within the dragon egg had been preserved. A dragon clan expert who could choose to be reborn through nirvana was at least at the level of a dragon emperor. The spiritual energy contained within the dragon egg was probably extremely abundant. However, the energy within could not be extracted directly. Instead, it required a sacred sacrifice technique to extract the energy within. This sacred sacrifice art was extremely ancient. It was used in ancient times by the Manchu clan to refine a living person's body and extract their spiritual energy. The spiritual energy in this dragon egg couldn't be used. However, the sacred sacrifice art was enough to extract all the energy in it. With the energy contained within this dragon egg, as long as the saint's sacrifice is used, it will be enough for my body to reach the advanced level. The saint's sacrifice requires many materials. However, I've already obtained many materials from the ancient Dragon Emperor Yin cave dwelling. I only need to purchase a few of the most important materials to set up the saint's sacrifice. Chu Fengyan thought to himself. Thank you for Feng Xianwen's reward. These 2 days, Xiaoyu had been moving house. Basically, she wrote in the wee hours of the morning. Therefore, the updates were very late. You can read it in the morning. Chapter 573. Chu Fengyan had come to the auction house to buy some items that could help him refine his body. However, he had changed his plans. As long as he completed the sacred sacrifice, the benefits he would receive would be much better than 100 elixirs like the Dragon Blood Saint King elixir. It would not be easy for Chu Fengyan to refine his body to the limit. He would need at least 1,000 elixirs like the Dragon Blood Saint King elixir. The items he had obtained from the Tianchong Chamber of Commerce were just a drop in the bucket. However, the Nirvana Dragon Egg had given Chu Fengyan a shortcut. As long as Chu Fengyan used the sacred sacrifice art and extracted the spiritual energy from the sacred sacrifice dragon egg, it would be enough to refine his body to the limit. It would save him a lot of trouble. The biggest auction house in the void ocean. Don't let me down. Chu Fengyan thought to himself. The group flew through the air. The space around them had shrunk to an inch. In less than 2 hours, they had crossed the primal chaos continent and arrived at the center of the primal chaos continent. Is this the biggest force in the primal chaos continent, the sky-reaching pavilion? Chu Fengyan looked ahead. There was a huge tower in front of him. It was 1,000 meters tall and 10,000 meters wide. It was huge. At a glance, it was extremely eye-catching. There were countless shops in this tall building. Countless cultivators were walking through them, doing business. The sky-reaching pavilion alone was many times more prosperous than the 9-cauldron ancient city in the Qin Empire. Compared to the sky-reaching pavilion, the nine-cauldron ancient city was like an ant. This was the real trading place. We are qualified to attend the auction. Let's go. There are some shops in the sky-reaching pavilion. If young Master Chu wants to take a look, you can come back after the auction. After all, the auction is more important. Elderly said with a smile. The group of people immediately flew up to the highest peak of the sky-reaching pavilion. They landed on the highest floor of the sky-reaching pavilion. Please show us your identity. A few martial artists asked politely when they saw Chu Fengmian and his group. Those who were able to participate in the auction were all well-known figures in the Void Ocean. Otherwise, they would not even be qualified to participate in the auction. One had to know that the value of this qualification alone was enough to equal a king Great Spirit Stone. Many cultivators couldn't even afford a qualification even if they had all their wealth. Elderly casually took out a jade talisman and handed it over. On the jade talisman were the words "Sky Piercing." I'm here to bring 2 friends in. Is that okay? A warrior took the jade talisman and injected his spiritual energy into it. Elder Li's identity information appeared on it. So, it's Elder Li of the Heavenly Chamber of Commerce. The venerables bowed respectfully. With Elder Li's status, of course there's no problem. Sky Room 11, please come in. A martial artist led Chu Fengmian and the others into a private room. This private room was extremely secretive and was covered with countless restrictions. It was even more secretive than the private rooms of Sky Chamber of Commerce, which showed just how powerful the sky-penetrating pavilion was. There were a total of 100 such rooms, and the top 20 rooms were occupied by Tianzi. As for the bottom 80 rooms, they were occupied by Earth rooms. As for the Xian and Huang rooms, they were seated at the bottom. However, even the seats were extremely spacious. They were extremely comfortable. Oh, the fruits in this private room are all Xian Great Spirit herbs? Chu Fengmian sat on one of the thrones and looked at the fruits placed beside him. This fruit was a kind of spirit herb called the purplish-green fruit. It had the effect of strengthening one's essence energy from martial artists below the divine power realm. Although its value was not high, it was extremely extravagant for it to be treated as a fruit in this private room. The people in the heaven-class boxes at the Sky-Reaching Pavilion's auction are all well-known figures in the Void Ocean. The Sky-Reaching Pavilion will definitely treat them well, Elderly said with a smile. However, only the heavenly rooms are so extravagant. The rooms below are far inferior to them. Although the purplish-green fruit grade is not high, it is extremely sweet and refreshing. It is extremely popular in the Void Ocean. As Elderly spoke, he picked up one of the purplish-green fruits and ate it. Chu Fengmian, who was beside him, also picked up a purplish-green fruit and bit into it. A sweet taste filled Chu Fengmian's mouth. The sweetness made one feel refreshed. There was also a surge of pure spiritual power that merged into Chu Fengmian's mouth. This surge of spiritual power was meaningless to a martial artist at Chu Fengmian's level. Chu Fengmian's spiritual power in one breath was 100 times more than the purplish-green fruit. However, it was quite useful to a martial artist in the wind-controlling realm. Not bad. Chu Fengmian nodded with a satisfied look on his face. This purplish-green fruit was indeed very refreshing. If young Master Chu likes it, why not buy some and store them in the empty ring? Anyway, the purplish-green fruit is extremely cheap. With young Master Chu's wealth, you don't need to care about it, Elderly said with a smile. There will be a fragment of an extreme path celestial weapon in this auction. I wonder if young Master Chu is interested? A fragment of an extreme path celestial weapon. Hearing Elder Li's words, Chu Fengmian's expression changed slightly. As soon as he heard about the fragment of an extreme path celestial weapon, Chu Fengmian thought of the Emperor Jar. Extreme path celestial weapons were extremely rare in the 9 domains. It could be said that there were less than 10 records of them in ancient books. Especially extreme path celestial weapons, which were extremely powerful. How could it be so easy to shatter them? Chu Fengmian's expression was calm, but his spiritual sense quietly moved and spread out. His spiritual sense was much stronger than the spiritual sense of a high-level life and death realm expert. It quietly left the box and spread into the sky-reaching pavilion. Inside of the Heavenspan pavilion was a stone dais, filled with countless treasures, each and every one of them extremely valuable. These should be the auction items of this auction. Among the countless treasures, Chu Fengmian was incomparably familiar with the aura of one of them. In one of the jade boxes, there was a broken tile, a fragment of the Emperor jar. It's really a fragment of the Emperor jar. Chu Fengmian was extremely shocked. He didn't expect to come across a fragment of the Emperor jar again. The fragments of the Emperor jar were scattered in every corner of the 9 domains. It was extremely difficult to come across one. Chu Fengmian was already extremely lucky to get one from the Void 5 Tyrants. He didn't expect to see another one in this auction. Chapter 574. The power of the Emperor jar will increase exponentially with every piece I obtain. Chu Fengmian was overjoyed. He had already obtained 3 fragments of the Emperor jar. If he could get this one, he would have 4 fragments, which was close to half of the total. Unless someone obtained all 5 fragments of the Emperor jar, it would be impossible to get the Emperor jar from Chu Fengmian's hands. Otherwise, the Emperor jar would only be taken away by Chu Fengmian if he died. It was extremely difficult to obtain even 1 fragment of the Emperor jar. It was almost impossible for one person to obtain the remaining 5 fragments. I must get this fragment of the Emperor jar. Chu Fengmian thought to himself. He had unlimited wealth now. No matter how much he had to pay, he must get this fragment of the Emperor jar. Young Master Chu, you seem to be interested in the fragment of an extreme immortal weapon. Elderly naturally saw the surprise that flashed across Chu Fengmian's face. However, he wasn't surprised by Chu Fengmian's reaction. An extreme immortal weapon was a legendary item. Even a fragment of it hadn't appeared in the 9 regions for 10,000 years. A fragment was enough to cause a great commotion. Of course, I'm interested in the fragment of an extreme immortal weapon, Chu Fengmian said. Although it's only a fragment, the power contained in it shouldn't be weak. Yes, it said that the power in this fragment is no less than a heaven-grade spiritual weapon. Elderly couldn't help but sigh. An extreme immortal weapon is a legendary item after all. The power of a fragment is comparable to a heaven-grade spiritual weapon. With young Master Chu's wealth, you can compete for it. However, you may not be able to get it. I'm afraid that this fragment of an extreme immortal weapon will be sold at a sky-high price, Elderly said with a smile. The news of the fragment of an extreme immortal weapon has already spread throughout the 9 regions. It said that some forces in the central and western regions have sent people to compete for it. Therefore, it won't be easy to get it. Yes, I'm just interested in this fragment of an extreme immortal weapon. After all, it's something that can only be found by chance. Chu Fengmian smiled casually. The major forces of the central and western regions? Right now, Chu Fengmian's wealth was comparable to an ordinary colossus. Compared to the Beimang Academy, it was still inferior. However, Chu Fengmian didn't believe that the Northern Mang Academy would be able to take out a spirit spring to buy such a fragment. Moreover, Chu Fengmian had the wealth of his entire bloodline, so it was worth half a spirit spring. In terms of wealth, Chu Fengmian was not inferior to any power. While Chu Fengmian was conversing with Elderly, the auction hall below was already filled with people. The auction venue was incomparably huge. At a glance, Chu Fengmian could see that there were over 10,000 thrones below. Currently, the 10,000 thrones were already filled with people. There were no more empty seats. Chu Fengmian could feel that the surrounding private rooms were already full. More than 10,000 warriors above the pinnacle of the Saint Realm. There are so many people in the Void Ocean. Chu Fengmian sighed. A pinnacle saint was enough to rule over a small country. They were absolute giants. In front of him, all the seats in the auction venue were actually full. Usually, there aren't so many people. In the past auctions, it's not easy to fill 50% of the seats. Elderly explained with a smile. However, the news of the appearance of the 6 ancient cave mansions has attracted countless experts from the 9 regions. That's why this auction is so full. Indeed. Chu Fengmian nodded. He scanned the crowd with his spiritual consciousness. Naturally, he could see that among the countless warriors, many of their auras and cultivation methods were not from the northern regions. Instead, they were from the central and western regions. The auction has begun. While Chu Fengmian was talking, a voice suddenly came from below. An elder slowly walked out from the upper stage. Treasures were carried onto the stage one by one. Many of the treasures were difficult to find in the northern regions. Some of them were even extinct in ancient times. Now, because of the ancient cave mansions, they had reappeared in the world. This elder is not simple. Chu Fengmian glanced at the elder and could see that he was definitely an expert. He could not detect much spiritual power on his body. It seemed that he did not even have the strength of the wind-controlling realm. However, Chu Fengmian knew that this was all the elder's concealment. The elder's strength had already reached the realm of returning to one's original state. That was why he looked so calm. This elder is a big shot of the sky-reaching pavilion. His name is Spiritual Venerable. It's said that his realm has reached the 8th level of the life and death realm. He's an outstanding figure among the high levels of the life and death realm. When Elderly saw this old man, his face was filled with respect. It seems that the sky-reaching pavilion is also attaching great importance to this auction. They actually invited him. 8th level of the life and death realm. The strength of this spiritual venerable was even stronger than that of the undying demon venerable. Chu Fengmian felt that with his current strength, he would only have a 50-50 chance of winning if he fought with the spiritual venerable. However, this was only Chu Fengmian's current strength. If Chu Fengmian refined his body to the extreme, he would have a 90% chance of defeating or even killing the spiritual venerable. Spiritual venerable. He's actually the host. Among the crowd below, some people recognized the spiritual venerable and exclaimed in surprise. What's the origin of this elder? An elder who doesn't even have the strength of the wind-controlling realm dares to host this auction? There were also some warriors who came here for the first time and were puzzled. Not even in the wind-controlling realm? This spiritual venerable is an outstanding figure among the high levels of the life and death realm. He's a real big shot. He can crush someone like you with a finger. One of the venerables said in disdain. This kind of conversation continued. Quiet. Only when the spiritual venerable gave a stern shout did the crowd completely quiet down. This sky-reaching auction starts now. Everyone should be clear about the auction's rules. You can pay with spirit stones or take out mystical items. As long as the price is the same, it's enough. The spiritual venerable said. Of course, the sky-reaching auction also has its own rules. If you can't take out enough wealth, don't blame our sky-reaching pavilion for being impolite. When he said this, the spiritual venerable's voice contained a bit of killing intent. This killing intent made people shudder. Although the spiritual venerable didn't say it clearly, everyone understood. There is only one outcome for those who dare to disturb the sky-reaching auction: death. Chapter 575. The first item. Spiritual sage Ling Zun let out a long roar and presented a jade box. Although the jade box was sealed, Chu Fengmian could sense the extremely pure spiritual energy contained within it. In addition to the spiritual energy, there was also an extremely rich vitality contained within. Some old people who were about to die could probably live for another 10 years just by smelling it. This life force was definitely denser than anything else. Everyone, please take a look. Spiritual sage Ling Zun slowly opened the jade box. Inside, there was a 3-inch branch lying quietly. This branch was incomparably green. Although it was only 3 inches long, it seemed to be alive. The spiritual energy and extremely rich life force were emitted from the 3-inch tree branch. Builder tree. The moment Chu Fengmian saw the branch, he suddenly blurted out a word. Oh, young Master Chu is quite knowledgeable. Elderly was slightly surprised when he heard Chu Fengmian's words. This is the branch of the builder tree, the greatest tree in the world. The branch of the builder tree. Such a thing actually appeared. Chu Fengmian was also extremely surprised. The builder tree was known as the greatest tree in the world during the Desolate Era. It was said to be the root of the world. Many of the various creatures in the world were born from the Builder Tree. In the Desolate Era, the Builder Tree was said to have been destroyed by an extremely huge war. Now that hundreds of thousands of years had passed, it was unexpected that a branch of the Builder Tree would appear. This branch of the Creation Tree contains an endless amount of life force. Once it is refined and merged with one's body, it will be refined into a body similar to the bloodline of the battle dragon. No matter what kind of injuries one suffers, one will be able to recover. It's almost impossible to die. Chu Fengmian secretly thought, if he could get this branch of the Builder Tree and use the sacred sacrifice together, it would be enough to make Chu Fengmian's recovery ability even stronger. If he really couldn't kill Chu Fengmian in one move with the battle dragon bloodline and the power of the Builder Tree, it would be enough to directly recover. The branch of the Builder Tree, if anyone can get this thing and refine it into their body, they will almost obtain an immortal body. The Sky-Reaching Pavilion actually took this thing out for auction. I must get this branch of the Builder Tree. With it, I will be extremely safe in the Void Ocean. Down below, countless martial artists were excited when they saw the Builder Tree branch. Each and every one of them wanted to fight for it. I wonder if Elderly has any thoughts of fighting for this Builder Tree branch? Chu Fengmian looked at Elderly beside him. His expression didn't change much. Although the Creation Tree branch is good, if you want to obtain it, you have to pay a lot of money. Elderly shook his head and said, although a Creation Tree branch like this is sufficient to allow one's vitality to surge greatly after fusing with one's body, it will still take some time for one to recover from fatal injuries. When true experts fight, victory or defeat is decided in an instant. This Builder Tree branch actually doesn't have much use. Spending a huge amount of wealth to buy it is not worth it. What Elderly said was the weakness of the Builder Tree branch. For example, when one's strength reached the high level of life and death stage, victory and defeat could be decided in a single breath. There was simply no time to slowly recover from their injuries. Not only Elderly, but many people in the surrounding sky boxes also didn't have any thoughts of bidding for it. However, this was only normal. For Chu Fengmian, who had the battle dragon bloodline, his recovery ability was extremely strong. With this Builder Tree branch, he was like a tiger that had grown wings. When the time came, he could recover all his injuries in an instant. Compared to the undying demon Venerable, it was much more terrifying. The first item, the Builder Tree branch. The starting price is 10,000 spiritual stones. Spiritual Venerable saw that everyone's emotions were ignited and also spoke at the appropriate time. 10,000 spiritual stones referred to low-grade spiritual stones. The price of a king-grade spiritual stone was around 10,000 spiritual stones. As for a royal-grade spiritual stone, it was worth 1,000,000 spiritual stones. 20,000 spiritual stones. 30,000 spiritual stones. 50,000 spiritual stones. Shouts could be heard from the crowd below. One after another, venerable martial artists bid. After all, the Builder Tree branch was the branch of the #1 tree in the world. Its value would definitely not be lower than 100,000 spiritual stones. The price of 10,000 spiritual stones was precisely to let everyone participate and ignite the atmosphere. The price soared all the way and soon reached 100,000 spiritual stones. This price was no longer something that some martialists could afford. 200,000. Chu Fengmian saw that the bidding was gradually slowing down and suddenly shouted a price. If Chu Fengmian obtained this Builder Tree branch, it would indeed bring him a lot of benefits. What Chu Fengmian lacked the least right now was wealth. As long as it was beneficial to him, he would obtain everything in this auction. Young Master Chu is actually interested in the Builder Tree branch. Elderly saw Chu Fengmian bid and was somewhat surprised. He had seen Chu Fengmian's strength. This kind of strength was close to high-level life and death realm. The Builder Tree branch's effect on Chu Fengmian should be extremely limited. After all, it's the branch of the #1 tree in the world. It's fine to buy it for fun. Anyway, it won't cost much. Chu Fengmian smiled casually and said. This sentence made Elderly speechless. 200,000 spiritual stones was the price of 20 king-grade spiritual stones. This kind of wealth was squandered for fun. Even elderly wouldn't dare to do something so extravagant. Sensing Elder Li's gaze, Chu Fengmian didn't care about it at all. The builder tree branch naturally had its uses, and Chu Fengmian was too lazy to explain. Anyway, his current image was that of a nouveau riche, so he might as well be thorough. 200,000 spiritual stones. Is there anyone else who wants to increase the price? After Chu Fengmian shouted 200,000, the scene became much quieter. This price was no longer something that many of the people below could afford. Furthermore, even if they were able to afford it, very few people would be willing to pay such a huge price to purchase a treasure of little value like the creation tree branch. The person in the heaven box is actually willing to pay such a huge price to buy this builder tree branch. The people in the heaven box are all big shots. This builder tree branch shouldn't be of much use to them. Maybe he's a young master of some big force. Forget it. Let's not talk about it. We can't afford to offend the people in the heaven box. The cultivators below discussed. Amidst the silence, a voice suddenly rang out. 300,000 spiritual stones. This voice came from the heaven box next to Chu Fengmian. Chapter 576. What? Someone actually made a bid? It's the heaven room again. Although the creation tree branch is precious, it's not very useful to the real big shots. Why would someone compete for it? Hearing that someone had made a new bid, there was an uproar below. Oh, 400,000 spiritual stones. Chu Fengmian was slightly surprised and also reported a new number, 500,000 spiritual stones. Before Chu Fengmian's voice died away, another bid came from the number 10 room beside him. This builder tree branch was generally priced at 100,000 spirit stones, which was already the limit. He didn't expect that it would be snatched up to a sky-high price of 500,000. Who's the person in number 10 room? Is he here to compete with me for the creation tree branch? Chu Fengmian frowned. According to Chu Fengmian's estimation, no one should be able to compete with him for the creation tree branch when he had made a bid of 200,000 spiritual stones. However, the number was rising steadily. Although Chu Fengmian did not care about this amount of wealth, it still made him frown. The number 10 room should belong to the Earth Yuan Pavilion. However, the voice doesn't belong to the Earth Yuan Pavilion. It should be an outsider. Elderly slowly opened his mouth and said, to be able to get a private room in Earth Yuan Pavilion, this person must have a powerful background. What should we do? It seems that this person is determined to get the creation tree branch. Bai Xian said in a low voice. She knew that Chu Fengmian had obtained a lot of wealth from the ancient Dragon Emperor Yin Cave. However, she did not know why he would spend so much wealth for a creation tree branch. It doesn't matter. I'd like to see who dares to compete with me. Chu Fengmian snorted. His wealth was almost endless. He would like to see who dared to compete with him for the creation tree branch. 600,000 spiritual stones. Chu Fengmian shouted out another sky-high price. At the same time, Chu Fengmian's spiritual consciousness shuttled out. The restriction in the room could not stop Chu Fengmian's spiritual consciousness at all. It allowed him to sneak in a number 10 room. There were many young warriors in room 10. They were all quite young, and the strongest among them was sitting on a high throne. Countless martial artists in the surroundings surrounded him like stars around the moon, flattering him. These cultivators were all wearing the same golden robes. The word desolate was very conspicuous on their robes. Chu Fengmian recognized him at a glance. Room 10 was filled with a group of desolate ancient sect disciples. Upon hearing Chu Fengmian's bid, the barren ancient sect disciples were enraged. Senior Brother Gu, this person really doesn't know what's good for him. He actually dares to compete with you. Do you want us to investigate who he is? Teach him a lesson. Anyone who dares to go against the desolate ancient sect can only die. A disciple of the desolate ancient sect said viciously. When he spoke, his voice was filled with killing intent. It was as if he was high and mighty and had control over everyone's life and death. In his heart, the lives of ordinary martial artists were not even comparable to ants. They were existences that he could easily crush to death. These disciples of the desolate ancient sect were extremely arrogant. especially since the desolate ancient sect was one of the 7 great sects and came from the most prosperous central region. In this remote north region, these desolate ancient sect disciples looked down on other north region disciples. Naturally, they did not take them seriously. After all, this is the largest auction in the Void Ocean. The sky-reaching pavilion behind this auction is quite powerful. It's better not to initiate a conflict. Another sect of the desolate ancient sect, disciple, said slowly, it's just a remote place like the North region. I don't believe that he dares to provoke the desolate ancient sect. Senior Brother Gu, do you want me to teach that brat a lesson? Destroy his cultivation and let others know the consequences of competing with the desolate ancient sect. The desolate ancient sect disciple who had just spoken said disdainfully, Silence. Senior Brother Gu, who was sitting on the throne, said coldly. His words contained an unparalleled majesty, causing the quarreling voices below to instantly disappear. This is the North region. It's better not to provoke trouble. It's just a fight for wealth. I don't believe that a brat from the North region can compete with me. Gu Lin said coldly. 700,000 spiritual stones. 800,000 spiritual stones. The moment Gu Lin opened his mouth, Chu Fengmian's voice rang out without hesitation. It showed that Chu Fengmian was determined to win. Damn it! Hearing this price, Gu Lin's face was filled with anger. Chu Fengmian, who was competing with him, said in a relaxed tone. He did not care about the price at all. Although Gu Lin was quite wealthy, he was still furious that he had to pay such a huge price for a creation tree branch. Senior Brother Gu, although this creation tree branch is precious, it's nothing in the middle region. We can buy it with some means when we return to the middle region. You don't have to compete with the North region aborigines. A desolate ancient sect disciple beside Gu Lin said flatteringly, What do you know? The creation tree branch is nothing, but this creation tree branch is different. Gu Lin said coldly. Among the 6 ancient cave dwellings, the one that we entered was the ancient era expert spiritual Wood Lord's cave dwelling. The spiritual Wood Celestial was once born from a branch of the creation tree. The spiritual Wood Lord's cave dwelling has not been fully opened yet. The greatest treasure within, the inheritance of the spiritual Wood Lord, has not been obtained yet. There must be something missing. This creation tree branch was found in the spiritual Wood Lord's cave dwelling. It might be related to the inheritance of the spiritual Wood Lord. If I can obtain the inheritance of the spiritual Wood Lord, I will become an invincible figure in the desolate ancient sect. I must get this creation tree branch. 1 million spiritual stones. Gu Lin shouted again, calling out a sky-high price. 1 million spiritual stones. No one would have expected the first treasure of the auction, the creation tree branch, to be sold at such a high price. The inheritance of the spiritual Wood Lord? I have heard of this spiritual Wood Lord before. He was an almighty in the ancient era who was born from the creation tree. He was a half-demon, half-immortal. Chu Fengmian was slightly surprised when he heard Gu Lin's words. Among the 6 ancient cave dwellings, there was one that belonged to the spiritual Wood Lord. Moreover, this creation tree branch was closely related to the inheritance of the spiritual Wood Lord. Although the spiritual Wood Lord was not as invincible as the ancient Dragon Emperor, he was still a powerful figure in the 9 regions. Anyone who could obtain his inheritance would benefit immensely. Chu Fengmian thought to himself. The people of the desolate ancient sect wanted to compete with Chu Fengmian. Now, they would fight to their heart's content. 1,500,000 spiritual stones. Chapter 577. Chu Fengmian's mouth moved as he shouted out another price. This time, he raised the price by 500,000 spiritual stones. Young Master Chu? Elderly was also shocked. He didn't expect Chu Fengmian to be so generous. Chu Fengmian was willing to pay such a high price for a builder tree branch. In Elderly's opinion, a builder tree branch was not even worth 100,000 spiritual stones. The current price was simply sky-high. This person wants to compete with me. Let's see who has more wealth. Chu Fengmian snorted like a young man in a fit of pique. Young Master Chu is indeed wealthy. Elderly was speechless. He looked at Chu Fengyan as if he was looking at a nouveau riche. His behavior was indeed like an enraged nouveau riche. Bai Xian's eyes flickered. Based on her understanding of Chu Fengyan was definitely not a brainless nouveau riche. On the contrary, Chu Fengyan's wisdom was definitely far beyond that of an ordinary person. He would definitely not pay such a high price for a fit of pique. In the Sky Room 10. Damn it, this person is really going against Senior Brother Gu. A desolate ancient sect disciple stood up and said furiously, "Do you want me to go out and kill this person?" "Sit down." Gu Lin snorted. His tone was filled with anger. "I'd like to see how much wealth this reckless guy has. 1,600,000 spiritual stones. 2 million spiritual stones." Chu Fengyan said without hesitation. The Builder Tree branch was originally very useful to Chu Fengyan. Now that Chu Fengyan knew that the Builder Tree branch was related to the inheritance of Lord Lingmu, Chu Fengyan could not give it up. Moreover, the people who were competing for it were from the 7 major sections. 2,100,000. Gu Lin once again spoke from booth number 10. His voice was filled with endless fury. When everyone heard that, they understood that the owner of private room number 10 was furious. 2,500,000. Chu Fengyan was not affected by the anger in the voice. He acted as if he did not hear it. 2,600,000. Gu Lin's voice was heard again from room 10. Everyone could tell that every time Gu Lin made a bid, the anger in his voice would become even stronger. He was like a lion that was about to go berserk. The current silence was just the calm before the eruption. 8 million. Chu Fengyan said coldly, not giving Gu Lin any chance. No matter what price Gu Lin offered, Chu Fengyan would always beat him. Interesting. I didn't expect the competition to be so fierce right from the start. This is no longer a competition. They're just throwing a tantrum. This price is enough to surpass the price of the Creation Tree branch by tens of times. The big shots in the Heaven Box are really rich. Who cares about them? It's just a bunch of big shots throwing a tantrum. We'll just watch. A series of voices could be heard from below. In room 10. After Chu Fengyan beat down his bids several times in a row, Gu Lin's face was filled with anger. Gu Lin's blood rushed to his head. His face turned red and his hair stood on end. He looked like a mad lion. He was so angry that he wanted to tear Chu Fengyan apart. Damn it! Damn it! This guy's going against me. How dare a native of the North region go against me? Gu Lin roared crazily. 9 million. This bid was close to an angry roar. Everyone could hear the murderous intent in Gu Lin's voice. If this wasn't an auction, Gu Lin would have killed him on the spot. However, no matter how crazily Gu Lin roared, Chu Fengyan's voice was still as calm as before. It was as if the wealth he offered didn't belong to him at all. A few million spiritual stones was just a drop in the ocean for Chu Fengyan. It wasn't even 1/10,000th of the wealth in his blood sea. Of course, he wouldn't care. 3 million. Chu Fengyan casually offered another bid. Room 10 was silent for a while. In the next moment, an extremely cold voice was heard. 2 million. 5 million. Chu Fengyan was still calm and continued to bid. 300. Before Gu Lin could finish his words, Chu Fengyan interrupted him. 4,400,000. 5 million. Chu Fengyan didn't wait for Gu Lin to finish his bid. Damn it! Damn it! In room 10, Gu Lin was completely enraged. This brat is courting death. Investigate. Let's find out who he is. Kill him. How dare he go against Senior Brother Gu and the Barren Ancient Sect? Even if he has 10,000 lives, he will die today. The disciples of the Barren Ancient Sect spoke one after another. Let's go. Let's go to the sky-piercing pavilion and pressure them to find out who he is. The disciples of the Barren Ancient Sect were so angry that they wanted to leave the room and pressure the sky-piercing pavilion to find out who Chu Fengyan was. Wait, Gu Lin said coldly. It's only a matter of time before I kill this brat. However, I must get this Creation Tree branch today. 6 million spiritual stones. Gu Lin said again. His voice was filled with endless killing intent. This Creation Tree branch is used by the disciples of the Barren Ancient Sect. Please give me some face. The moment those words were spoken, anyone could hear the terrifying killing intent contained within them. It was definitely a threat. When Gu Lin said the words barren ancient sect, the expressions of the experts changed drastically. Even the martial artists of the North region knew about the barren ancient sect. The name of the 7 sects was known throughout the 9 regions. Even the North region was no exception. In the North region, every martial artist knew what the 7 sects represented. They were supreme and invincible existences that dominated the 9 regions. They were the strongest forces in the North region. Even the North Sea College was no match for the 7 sects. They are from the 7 sects. Competing with them will offend the 7 sects. Who dares to compete with them? I think the person in room 11 is going to back down. The name of the barren ancient sect has already been announced. Competing with them will be going against the barren ancient sect. Countless martial artists were in a heated discussion. Chu Fengyan's voice rang out from room 11. 7 million spiritual stones. After shouting out the price, Chu Fengyan's mocking voice rang out from room 11. So what if you're a disciple of the barren ancient sect? In the auction, the highest bidder wins. Paupers should just obediently scram back to the central region. Chapter 578. What? He still dares to bid? Judging from his tone, he doesn't care about the desolate ancient sect at all. Who is he? He must be from the Sky Chamber of Commerce. Since when did such an arrogant person appear in the Sky Chamber of Commerce? Impressive. He dares to compete with the 7 sections. I didn't expect such a person to appear in the North region. Many martial artists' spiritual consciousnesses were discussing among themselves below. Damn it, this brat is going against me. Gu Lin was so angry that he wanted to destroy the heavens and earth. Senior Brother Gu, let's attack and kill this person. Kill him on the spot. Anyone who dares to go against the desolate ancient sect will die. Let's kill him now at the auction and let everyone know that the dignity of the 7 sects is not to be challenged. The disciples of the desolate ancient sect spoke with great passion. As disciples of the desolate ancient sect and the 7 sects, they were all proud and arrogant. They were proud of their status as members of the 7 sections. Chu Fengyan's words showed that he didn't care about the 7 sects at all. It was an endless provocation to them. Stop. Now is not the time to kill. Gu Lin's eyes flickered rapidly before he spoke slowly. Our purpose here is the fragment of the extreme path immortal weapon. Even the sect takes this matter seriously. We can't have any conflict with the sky-reaching pavilion now. This brat will die sooner or later. It's fine to let him have the builder tree branch first. When he leaves the sky-reaching pavilion, he'll die. I've already planted a special seal on him. Even if he escapes to the ends of the earth, we'll still be able to hunt him down. Yes, the other sect of the desolate ancient sect disciples hurriedly voiced their agreement. Room 10 gradually quieted down. After a long while, Gu Lin's hearty laughter rang out. I admire your wealth and won't compete with you. However, please remember that you shouldn't show off your wealth. If you do, you'll be in trouble. Please be careful. Gu Lin's words were full of killing intent. Although it was a reminder, it was actually a threat. Everyone could hear the threat in Gu Lin's words. Chu Fengyan, this person should already bear a grudge against you. Right now, they don't dare to act impudently in the auction house. However, once they leave the auction house, I'm afraid that these people will not leave the matter at that. Bai Xian felt a lingering fear when she heard Gu Lin's killing intent. Gu Lin's strength was even greater than Flood Yu's. Coupled with his identity as a disciple of the desolate ancient sect, he was definitely a terrifying figure. It was not a good thing to provoke them. It doesn't matter. I've already killed more than one disciple of the desolate ancient sect. It doesn't matter if I offend a few more. Chu Fengyan said calmly. As long as I'm strong enough, the people from the 7 major sects are nothing. I can even destroy the 7 major sections. Destroying the 7 great sects. Hearing Chu Fengyan's words, Bai Xian was extremely shocked. In Bai Xian's heart, the 7 great sects had always been in existence that she did not dare to provoke. Not to mention destroying the 7 great sects, Bai Xian didn't even dare to think about provoking the 7 great sects and fighting against them. This person's wisdom is terrifying to the extreme. No matter how strong the enemy is, he is not afraid. However, this is indeed the most important aspect of becoming an expert. I don't need to fear anything. Only by not fearing anything can I become a true expert. Bai Xian thought to herself. Thinking of this, Bai Xian's aura began to rise. Unexpectedly, she had reached the limit of the divine power realm. After getting rid of the knot in her heart, her state had reached perfection. As long as she could find an opportunity, she would be able to pass the life and death tribulation and become a life and death expert. Oh, Chu Fengmian did not expect that his words would be enough to enlighten Bai Xian. However, Bai Xian's aptitude was already extremely high. Now that she had obtained many fortuitous encounters in Dragon Emperor Yan's cave, it was normal for her to have a breakthrough. Someone is here. Young Master Chu, please prepare the spiritual stones. Elderly, who was at the side, suddenly reminded. The door of booth number 11 suddenly opened. A young woman walked in with a jade box in her hand. Elderly, I didn't expect you to be the one who won the bid for this creation tree branch. When a young woman pushed open the door and saw Elderly, her face revealed a surprised expression. Young Lady Luo Shi, this creation tree branch was not bought by this old man. This old man is not that generous. Elderly smiled and said while pointing at Chu Fengmian. This old man is accompanying someone to this auction. Oh, Luo Shi followed Elderly's gaze and looked at Chu Fengmian. Seeing such an unfamiliar face, she sized him up and suddenly spoke. You are young Master Chu? The one who defeated the flood prison? Sky-reaching pavilion is indeed heaven-defying. I didn't expect you to know me so quickly. Chu Fengmian was slightly surprised in his heart, but he soon smiled and said, Yes, it's me. Young Master Chu is now the most influential person in the Void Ocean. How could this little girl not know you? Luo Shi chuckled. Her smile was so charming that it could mesmerize anyone who saw it. Martial artists with weak willpower would have lost themselves in it. However, Chu Fengmian's willpower was firm, and he did not care at all. Luo Shi was indeed an extremely beautiful lady. Her appearance was probably not inferior to Han Yueli. However, unlike Han Yueli's coldness, Luo Shi's every move seemed to be very intimate, making it easier for people to get lost in it. Young Lady Luo Shi, please excuse me. Here are 7 million spiritual stones. Young Lady Luo Shi, please count them. Chu Fengmian did not continue Luo Shi's words. He waved his hand, and a ball of king-grade spiritual stones appeared in his hand. It was worth exactly 7 million spiritual stones. King-grade spiritual stones. Luo Shi was stunned when she saw all the king-grade spiritual stones that Chu Fengmian took out. This was a huge sum of money. Generally, even the wealthiest people in the Void Ocean would rarely take out royal-grade spiritual stones to trade. What surprised Luo Shi even more was that Chu Fengmian was not affected by her at all. Seeing that Chu Fengmian woke up so quickly, Luo Shi's eyes revealed a bit of strangeness. She quickly reacted and said, Young Master Chu is really rich. The creation tree branch is in this jade box. Luo Shi presented the jade box with the creation tree branch inside. That's right. Chu Fengmian nodded. Only the creation tree branch had such rich vitality. Well, if there's nothing else, I'll take my leave. Luo Shi said as her figure flashed and disappeared from the room. The charming technique of the charming demon sect of the Six Paths Demon Sect. Interesting. There are still people from the Six Paths Demon Sect. Chu Fengmian looked at Luo Shi's back and thought, there's only 3 chapters left. After moving for a day, I'm too tired to continue writing. I've been sleeping at 2 or 3 in the morning for the past few days. I can't take it anymore. I'll make it up after moving. Chapter 579. The Six Paths Demon Gate was an ancient sect. It was even more ancient than the 9 Demon City. However, according to the records, the Six Paths Demon Gate had long been destroyed. He did not expect to meet someone from the Six Paths Demon Gate today. Why, young Master Chu, are you interested in Miss Luo Shi? Elderly asked seriously. Seeing Chu Fengmian's expression, Elder Li's face turned serious. Miss Luo, she is not an ordinary person. Young Master Chu, if you have any ideas about her, you should give up. Chu Fengmian looked at Elderly and said with a smile. Why? Miss Luo, she doesn't seem to be an ordinary person. Miss Luo, she's status in the sky-reaching pavilion is extremely high. Young Master Chu, please don't have any ideas about her. Elderly reminded. Otherwise, you'll only attract disaster. Disaster? I've never been afraid of any disaster in my life. Chu Fengmian laughed and said, Elderly, don't worry. I'm just curious about Miss Luo Shi. Nothing else. I hope so. Elderly smiled bitterly. These young people, especially those who had some strength, could not remain indifferent after seeing Luo Shi. If Elderly was not so old, he would have been mesmerized by Luo Shi. While they were talking, the second treasure was being auctioned on the spectator stand. The second treasure was a giant axe spiritual weapon. It was a mid-grade Earth-class spiritual weapon. Although its grade was not high, it was ancient and had countless runes carved on it that surpassed the current era. Its power was much stronger than the current high-grade Earth-class spiritual weapons. It was a rare treasure. However, this kind of thing was meaningless to Chu Fengmian. He had the ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword, abundant lush steel, and the Emperor's Jar. He might not even be interested in an ordinary heaven-class spiritual weapon, let alone an Earth-class spiritual weapon. It was the same for Bai Xian. Bai Xian had obtained a top-grade Earth-class spiritual sword in the ancient Yin Dragon Emperor cave abode by chance. She was already a sword cultivator. Bai Xian's current strength was much stronger than before she came to the Void Ocean. It was almost certain that she would return to the North Sea Academy and be promoted to a core disciple. The third item, the fourth item, the fifth item, one by one, the treasures were put up for auction. Apart from spiritual weapons, there were also many rare items, some unique materials, and even ancient martial arts. These things were of little use to Chu Fengmian, so he had never bought them. Chu Fengmian knew very well that the items being auctioned now were all ordinary items. The truly valuable treasures would only be auctioned at the end. However, even some ordinary items were priceless treasures in the outside world. There were things that could not be bought at all. The 12th treasure, Sword Qi of the Heavens. Reverend Spiritual Venerable said. Then, a maid walked out with a transparent crystal in her hand. Within the transparent crystal, one could vaguely see 3 streaks of Sword Qi. These 3 streaks of Sword Qi were extremely sharp. Through the crystal, Chu Fengmian could sense how powerful the sword aura was. This is at least the Sword Qi left behind by a life and death realm expert. Chu Fengmian muttered to himself when he saw the Sword Qi. Heavenly Sword Qi? To think that the sky-reaching pavilion would even take out something like this in the auction. Elderly, who was sitting in a group, seemed to be shocked as he cried out involuntarily. This is the Sword Qi left behind by the previous, strongest expert of the sky-reaching pavilion, the Heavenly Sword Master. It's said that it contains the Sword Tao of the Heavenly Sword Master. Anyone who can obtain it can comprehend the Sword Tao of the Heavenly Sword Master. Chu Fengmian thought inwardly. Comprehend the Sword Tao of the Heavenly Sword Master? That's far from easy. Only an expert at the pinnacle of the Sword Tao can comprehend the Sword Tao of the Heavenly Sword Master with just this Sword Qi. Such an expert's strength would not be below the Heavenly Sword Master's. He would not waste such a great price to comprehend the Sword Tao of others. However, although it was impossible to comprehend the Sword Tao of the Heavenly Sword Master, if a sword cultivator obtained it and integrated it into his own Sword Tao, it would be equivalent to receiving guidance from a senior. It would be extremely useful. This Sword Qi was useless to Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian's Sword Tao surpassed the Heavenly Sword Master's. This Sword Qi had no effect on him. However, to Divine Force Realm or even Life and Death Realm sword cultivators, this Sword Qi was an extremely great treasure. Sword Qi of the Heavenly Sword Qi. Bai Xian, who was sitting beside Chu Fengmian, opened her eyes wide the moment she saw the Sword Qi of the Heavenly Sword Qi. Her eyes were filled with envy and desire. Bai Xian's Sword Tao was different from Chu Fengmian's. It was a kind of myriad sword technique. It gathered all the swords in the world and reached greater mastery. The sword chi of a supreme expert like the sword chi of the heavenly sword chi was the best supplement for her. Senior Sister Bai Xian, do you want this sword chi of the heavenly sword chi? Chu Fengmian looked at Bai Xian's eyes and smiled. If Senior Sister Bai Xian wants it, how about I bid for it for you? You've already spent so much wealth to buy the Builder Tree branch. If you bid for this sword chi of the heavenly sword chi, you'll lose too much. When Bai Xian heard Chu Fengmian's words, she was delighted at first, but soon after, her eyes dimmed. This sword chi of the heavenly sword chi wasn't something cheap. It was enough to make countless sword cultivators fight over it. Its value was extremely high. Although Bai Xian wanted to buy this sword chi of the heavenly sword chi, she was far from being able to do so with her wealth. It's fine. The Builder Tree branch's wealth is just a drop in the ocean. If Senior Sister Bai Xian wants it, I'll bid for it. It can also be considered as repaying Senior Sister Bai Xian's 10,000 contribution points. Chu Fengmian looked at Bai Xian and smiled. The wealth needed to buy this sword chi of the heavenly sword chi was nothing to Chu Fengmian. The 12th item, sword chi of the heavenly sword chi. The starting price is 10,000 spiritual stones. Taoist spiritual sage shouted from the spectator stand. 20,000 spiritual stones. 30,000 spiritual stones. 50,000 spiritual stones. 100,000 spiritual stones. Countless sword cultivators below bid one after another, and the price soared. The sword chi of the heavenly sword chi was much more useful to sword cultivators than countless wondrous items of the heavens. 200,000 spiritual stones. Just as the bids were being raised countless times, a figure suddenly appeared, causing the entire place to turn silent. This voice came from Box 10. It was the voice of Gulin, a disciple of the desolate ancient sect. Damn it, it's the desolate ancient sect again. This person has competed for countless treasures. I can't believe he's also competing for this sword chi of the heavenly sword chi. It's a pity that we can't go against him. The desolate ancient sect is a colossus, one of the 7 major sections. Going against them is simply courting death. Countless sword cultivators below were indignant, but no one dared to bid again. Chapter 580. At this moment, anyone who placed a bid would offend the desolate ancient sect. Is there no one else who wants to bid higher? Spiritual Sage glanced at the crowd and asked slowly. The scene was dead silent. No one dared to answer. Spiritual Sage, the sword chi belongs to us now. Hand it over. Gulin laughed heartily as he looked at the silent crowd. In his opinion, this sword chi was already in his bag. However, just as he finished speaking, a voice resounded in the next moment. Others may be afraid of the desolate ancient sect, but I'm not. 300,000 spiritual stones. Chu Fengmian, who was in Box 11, said casually. The person in Box 11 is bidding again. Interesting. Last time, this person snatched the creation tree branch from the desolate ancient sect. I thought he had used up all his wealth when he didn't say anything. I didn't expect him to come and disturb us again. The crowd below all had the mentality of watching a good show as they watched the dispute. They didn't dare to offend the desolate ancient sect, but someone else did. They only needed to watch the show quietly. Damn it. This person is here to cause trouble again. Does he have a grudge against the desolate ancient sect? Inside the sky box number 10, Gulin's face was initially filled with joy and pride. Since he announced his identity as the desolate ancient sect, no one in the auction dared to compete with him. Just as Gulin was feeling complacent, Chu Fengmian's words made his face turn ugly as if he had just eaten shit. Damn it, my sword principle is about to be upgraded. As long as I get the sword chi of the sword chi, my sword principle will be improved. How dare this brat come and disturb us? Gulin scolded crazily. If it weren't for his fear of the sky-reaching pavilion and his need to continue participating in the auction, he would have already killed Chu Fengmian. Gulin couldn't wait to grab Chu Fengmian and cut him into pieces. Only by extracting his soul and refining his soul could he quell the anger in his heart. 500,000. Gu Lin bid again. 600,000. Chu Fengmian's emotionless voice rang out again. Every time Gu Lin bid, Chu Fengmian would chase after him. In a short period of time, the sword aura had increased to 3 million spiritual stones. 3,500,000. The anger in Gu Lin's heart had already reached its limit and was on the verge of exploding. Every time he opened his mouth, it was filled with a terrifying killing intent. Anyone who heard it would be able to sense Gu Lin's rage. Don't you think that you're going too far? Do you really think that our desolate ancient sect has no one capable of standing up against you? Gu Lin said coldly. I'll give you a chance. If you back out now, I'll give you a chance to live. If you keep fighting, you'll die. Gu Lin's words were a clear threat. He was arrogant and domineering, wanting to decide someone's life and death with a single word. Really? Do the people of the ancient Baron sect only know how to use their sect as a shield? The auction has its rules. The highest bidder wins. I've said it before. If you don't have money, scram back to the central region. Chu Fengmian said coldly without any trace of politeness. 4,000,000 spirit stones. Chu Fengmian called out an even higher price, pushing Gu Lin's bid down once again. Damn it, I'm going to kill him. Gu Lin had never encountered such a situation where he was continuously ridiculed by others. His anger was so strong that he wanted to destroy everything in the world. Even though there was a restrictive aura in the private room, Gu Lin's anger still spread out. Gu Lin slammed his hand on the throne, turning it into dust. He was about to leave the private room to find Chu Fengmian and kill him. Senior Brother Gu, we're here for the fragment of the Extreme Path immortal weapon. We can't fall out with the sky-reaching pavilion now. A desolate ancient sect disciple beside Gu Lin quickly came forward to persuade him. Humph! The moment the words Extreme Path immortal weapon were mentioned, the anger on Gu Lin's face dissipated and he became more clear-headed. That's right. The sex matters are the most important. This kid is a dead man anyway. No matter how much wealth he obtains, it will belong to me in the end. Gu Lin said angrily, but he managed to suppress his anger in the end. With a wave of his hand, the throne that he had smashed into pieces reappeared, and he sat down once again. 4,000,000 spirit stones was already a sky-high price. The sword chi disappeared from the spectator stand. Soon, Luo Shi brought the sword chi to private room number 10 and let it in. Chu Fengmian waved his hand, and countless king-grade spiritual stones appeared. They turned into a ball and flew towards Luo Shi. Luo Shi took it and left. This sword chi is indeed of a good grade. It must have been left to the sky-reaching pavilion by the heavenly sword sovereign. Chu Fengmian sized up the sword chi. He could tell that the sword chi was of a very high grade. It wasn't the kind of sword chi that could be bought casually. Although 4,000,000 spirit stones was a high price, it was still worth it. Senior Sister Bai Xian, you should refine this sword chi right now. I'll help you advance your sword Dao. Chu Fengmian handed the sword chi to Bai Xian. Bai Xian took it and nodded her head. She opened the seal of the sword aura, and 3 of the sword auras merged into Bai Xian's body. As soon as the sword chi entered Bai Xian's body, it fused with her body. It merged with Bai Xian's sword Dao, causing Bai Xian's sword Dao to undergo changes. However, the sword chi was an external object after all. Only 30% of it merged into Bai Xian's sword Dao. The rest would go to waste. If you refine all of this sword chi, you might be able to comprehend the sword Dao of the heavenly sword sovereign. Let me help you then. Chu Fengmian looked at Bai Xian and made his move. His sword chi merged into Bai Xian's body and turned into a godly devouring python that traveled through her body. The heaven-devouring godly python devoured and refined the sword chi to help Bai Xian refine her sword Dao. Boom! In an instant, the 3 sword chi were devoured by Bai Xian. A sharp sword intent suddenly condensed on Bai Xian's body. Behind Bai Xian, there were a total of 99 different sword chis, which formed into a formation. Her sword principle was only 1 sword chi away from reaching the initial level. You're missing 1 out of 100. I'll help you to complete your sword Dao now. Seeing this scene, Chu Fengmian's mind moved, and the heaven-devouring divine python fused into Bai Xian's body. The 100-sword qi in the formation behind Bai Xian was completed. Her sword Dao was finally complete. Chapter 581. Bai Xian stood up abruptly. An extremely mysterious sword intent gushed out from her body. This sword intent was the fusion of 100 strands of sword qi, and the most prominent one was the power of the heavenly sword qi. The power of the heavenly sword qi has been completely devoured. 99% of its power has been devoured. Elderly was extremely surprised to see the changes in Bai Xian. It was not easy to devour even 30% of the external sword qi. Only a rare sword genius could devour 40 or 50% of it. As for the fact that Bai Xian had devoured 99% of the sword qi's power, it was simply inconceivable. Congratulations, senior sister. You've achieved a small success in sword principle. Chu Fengmian looked at Bai Xian and said with a smile. Chu Fengmian had never been stingy with his friends. Bai Xian had helped him a lot, so he didn't think it was a big deal to give the heavenly sword qi to her. My sword principle has finally been condensed. Bai Xian stood up and felt the sword intent in her body. She was overjoyed. The end of her sword principle was the fusion of 10,000 strands of sword qi. Bai Xian had only fused 100 strands of sword qi, which could only be considered a small success. But even so, she had finally condensed it. Although there was a small difference between 98 strands of sword qi and 100 strands of sword qi, they were two completely different realms. In terms of strength, Bai Xian was now countless times more powerful than before. Her strength might even surpass Flood Yu, Luo Zhanhen, and the others. When she returned to the Bei Meng Academy, she would be the real #1 person in the inner sect. I have to thank you for your help. Bai Xian looked at Chu Fengmian with a thoughtful look in her eyes. Although Elderly didn't treat her to a meal, Bai Xian knew that her strength had improved so much. She had devoured 90% of the heavenly sword qi's spiritual power, not because of herself. It was because of Chu Fengmian. The last strand of sword qi she lacked was also completed by Chu Fengmian. Although Chu Fengmian's last sword qi didn't contain much overbearing power, it had a power that could fuse everything. It had perfectly fused the other 99 strands of sword qi in her body together, which allowed her to achieve a small success in sword principle. It could be said that all of this was thanks to Chu Fengmian. However, Bai Xian didn't point this out. Chu Fengmian indeed had many secrets. If they were exposed, it would be extremely troublesome. If Chu Fengmian didn't want to talk about it, Bai Xian wouldn't take the initiative to ask. Due to Bai Xian's breakthrough, her sword intent began to seep out of the box. Someone has made a breakthrough in Sky Room 10. What a sharp sword intent. Is this the power of the heavenly sword qi? The sword qi of the sky-piercing sword has been condensed by someone just like that. I'm afraid that any peak saint who managed to condense the sword qi of the sky-piercing sword would become an unrivaled character in the divine force realm. Voices rang out one after another. Some were jealous, but most of them were envious. Indeed, no matter who obtained the heavenly sword qi, it was not something that they would have a chance to touch. Damn it! The natives of the northern region have actually refined the sword qi of the Heavenspan sword. Gu Lin could sense the sword intent within. Naturally, he knew that the sword qi of heaven had been refined by someone. The heavenly sword master is a powerhouse who has surpassed the life and death realm. The sword qi that he left behind has actually been refined by the natives of the northern region. What a waste. The heavenly sword qi originally belonged to Gu Lin. However, Chu Fengmian had forcefully snatched it away from Gu Lin's hands. Senior Brother Gu, don't worry. The heavenly sword qi has been refined. Once we kill this person, we can also obtain the heavenly sword qi. A desolate ancient sect disciple consoled. Humph. Gu Lin sat on the throne in a huff. His eyes were filled with rage. In his mind, he had already plotted countless times on how to kill Chu Fengmian. The heavenly sword qi could be considered an interlude. Among the countless treasures that were auctioned off, none of them caught Chu Fengmian's eye. Many of these treasures came from the ancient era. They came from the ancient cave dwelling and were extremely valuable. However, If they were useless to Chu Fengmian, he wouldn't waste his wealth on them. Although Chu Fengmian had a lot of wealth, he wouldn't squander it recklessly. Soon, the auction house was nearing its end. There were only 3 treasures left. The crowd's interest wasn't extinguished by the long time. Instead, as the auction neared its end, everyone became extremely excited. This was because everyone knew that the last 3 treasures were the highlight of the auction. The 37th treasure, Venerable Spirit Sage, was on the spectator's stand. Several venerables joined hands to carry an incomparably huge object and placed it on the stage. This thing was dozens of meters long and wide. At a glance, it had a strange shape. It seemed to vaguely resemble the palm of a creature. This is a dragon claw, Dragon Emperor's dragon claw. The moment Chu Fengmian saw this object, his expression changed. The faint dragon aura emitted from this object couldn't escape Chu Fengmian's eyes. This object was actually a dragon claw whose strength had reached the level of a dragon emperor. This object is Dragon Emperor Ao Heng's dragon claw. Venerable Spirit Sage slowly opened his mouth on the spectator's stand. This item came from the ancient cave mansion. Ao Heng Dragon Emperor was one of the best in the ancient dragon clan. He was strong enough to become the Dragon Emperor. Although he had been dead for tens of thousands of years, his dragon claw still contains a terrifying power. It even contains the Dragon Emperor's bloodline. Anyone who can obtain it will obtain the Dragon Emperor's bloodline. Venerable Spirit Sage's words immediately set off an uproar in the auction house. Dragon Emperor's dragon claw. Dragon Emperor Ao Heng was a famous figure 10,000 years ago. He was the leader of the Dragon Emperors and was close to becoming the Dragon Emperor. The Dragon Clan's bloodline, especially the Dragon Emperor's bloodline. Whoever can obtain it will obtain endless benefits. Today, even if I have to stake all my wealth, I will obtain this dragon claw. Streams of spiritual consciousness were chatting with each other. Chu Fengmian felt that the people in the heaven box beside him were discussing animatedly. Dragon Emperor's dragon claw. The heaven-reaching auction was indeed the largest auction in the Void Ocean. The first of the last 3 items was actually this kind of object. Good stuff. Dragon Emperor Ao Heng was close to becoming the Dragon Emperor. Although he couldn't compete with Dragon Emperor Yengu, he was still a peerless overlord in the Dragon Clan. Chu Fengmian looked at the Dragon Emperor's dragon claw with some excitement in his eyes. This dragon claw contains a lot of power. I happen to have the Nirvana Dragon Egg. I can use the Dragon Emperor's dragon claw and the Nirvana Dragon Egg at the same time to double the effect with half the effort. Chapter 582. Chu Fengmian cultivated the battle dragon art. Now, the dragon claw of Ao Heng Dragon Emperor would be of great use in Chu Fengmian's hands. I must get this dragon claw. Chu Fengmian was determined to get the dragon claw. He was so rich that no matter who came to compete for it, Chu Fengmian would fight for it. As the sounds of discussion gradually dissipated, the spiritual Venerable Spirit Sage on the spectator stand slowly opened his mouth and said, "Don't worry. The starting prize for the dragon claw of Ao Heng Dragon Emperor is 1,000,000 spiritual stones." Although Reverend Spiritual Sage's tone was calm, every word he said resonated in everyone's hearts. The starting price of 1,000,000 was a number that many peak saints couldn't get even if they sold their entire fortune. The venue fell into silence for a moment. But in the next moment, countless voices sounded at the same time. 2,000,000, 3,000,000, 5,000,000, 10,000,000. Countless voices abruptly rang out from the earth box. The value of the dragon claw wasn't something a mere 1,000,000 spiritual stones could compare with. The price instantly broke through 10,000,000 spiritual stones, and it was still climbing. 20,000,000. A voice suddenly sounded in the heaven box. This voice was incomparably deep, and it belonged to a true expert. Heaven Box 7. Chu Fengmian instantly sensed that the voice had resounded from the 7th Sky VIP box. Apart from Chu Fengmian's box 11 and Gu Lin's box 10, this was the first time someone from the heaven box had bid. A true big shot has finally made his move. The dragon claw of Ao Heng Dragon Emperor is extremely valuable to high-level life and death experts. I'm afraid this dragon claw will be auctioned for a sky-high price. The venerables below were discussing spiritedly. They were all here to watch the show. This dragon claw was naturally not something they could compete for. This dragon claw is worth 20 million spiritual stones. If no one wants it, it will be mine. A voice sounded from the Heaven Box 7. These words contained a hint of threat. Whoever dared to bid for the Dragon Emperor's dragon claw would be his enemy. The people in the heavenly VIP room were all big shots. This was especially the case for the person who had spoken. The strength that was faintly discernible from his voice had already reached the high level of the life and death stage. No one wanted to offend such a big shot. Oh, who is this person? How dare he be so arrogant? When Chu Fengmian heard this voice, he could also hear the domineering majesty and threat in it. The guest elder of the Beyond the Heavens sect, Yu Min Long, should be in the 7th private room. It is said that this person had a fortuitous encounter with the Dragon Clan, so it is not strange that he wanted to obtain the Dragon Emperor's dragon claw. Elderly explained from the side. Jade-faced dragon strength is among the top life and death realm experts. Young master, Chu shouldn't compete with him. Elderly could already see that Chu Fengmian was a lawless character. Chu Fengmian didn't even care about the desolate ancient sect of the 7 major sections. Elderly didn't want Chu Fengmian to offend the Jade-faced dragon and cause the Sky Trade Association to lose such a big customer. Oh, hearing Elder Li's words, Chu Fengmian quietly activated his spiritual sense and looked at the 7th private room. Through the various restrictions, Chu Fengmian saw a middle-aged man sitting in room number 7 with a single glance. This middle-aged man's body contained a faint dragon aura, and there were even a few dragon scales on his neck. It looked extremely strange. This jade-faced dragon strength was probably not far from the undying demon venerables. There are quite a lot of experts in the Void Ocean. Chu Fengmian nodded. Chu Fengmian originally thought that the experts in the North region should be in the North Sea Academy and the Earth Demon sect, but now it seemed that there were some experts among the forces in the Void Ocean. Just as Chu Fengmian was pondering, a voice resounded outside. Brother Yumin, 20 million spirit stones for the Dragon Emperor's dragon claw is a little too cheap, isn't it? Beside him, another voice sounded from room number 6. I'll pay 30 million. This voice was also incomparably domineering, and the aura contained in it was not any weaker than jade-faced dragons. This was another high-level life and death realm expert. High-level life and death realm experts were extremely rare in the Void Ocean, but now they were revealed one after another in the auction. 40 million. Another voice came from the 3rd room. It was a woman's voice. Chu Fengmian glanced over and saw a woman sitting in the 3rd private room. 2 middle-aged men stood behind her, guarding her at all times. This woman's strength was similar to Luo Zhanhin and the others, but the 2 middle-aged men behind her were high-level life and death realm experts. To be able to have high-level life and death realm experts guarding her, one could imagine the power behind this woman. 50 million. In the 7th private room, Jade-faced Dragon spoke again. 60 million. The woman in the 3rd private room also spoke again. The price continued to rise. However, at this moment, only the 3 clans were still fighting over it. It's about time. The price had already risen to 80 million. Chu Fengmian muttered to himself. This price should be reaching its limits soon. 100 million. Chu Fengmian suddenly spoke. These 3 short words were like a clap of thunder, resounding in the hearts of countless people. 100 million spirit stones. What kind of concept was that? It was an astronomical number that many people had never thought of. The 11th private room. The 11th private room again. Is this person's wealth really unlimited? He actually raised the price by 20 million? In the 11th private room, when Elderly heard Chu Fengmian's bid, he almost broke out in a cold sweat. Such a sky-high price was no longer a matter of offending people. He was afraid that Chu Fengmian wouldn't be able to take it out. 100 million spirit stones was not a small number in the Sky Chamber of Commerce. Even if Chu Fengmian had some fortuitous encounters and obtained wealth, it would not be easy for him to take out 100 million spirit stones. Young Master Chu, are you really going to spend 100 million spirit stones to buy the Dragon Emperor Claw? Elderly was stuttering as he spoke. 100 million spirit stones was a number that even he had never thought of. Of course, I am determined to get the Dragon Emperor Claw, Chu Fengmian said calmly. The venue was silent. The third private room, the sixth private room, and the seventh private room were all silent, as if they were stunned by this number. Well, then the Dragon Emperor Claw belongs to the 11th private room. Spiritual Venerable waved his hand, and the huge Dragon Emperor Claw flew directly toward the 11th private room. Today's fourth update, I haven't finished the moving yet, so I can only update it fourth. When I'm done, I'll have more. Thank you for your reward. Thank you for supporting this book. Chapter 583. Countless pairs of eyes were looking in their direction. They wanted to see if Chu Fengmian could afford the sky-high price of 100 million spiritual stones. Sir, please take out 100 million spiritual stones. Spiritual Venerable said slowly. Take out 100 million spiritual stones, and the Dragon Emperor Claw will belong to you. It's just 100 million spiritual stones. You don't have to make such a big fuss. Do you think I owe the sky-piercing pavilion anything? Chu Fengmian's laughter rang out. A long river of spiritual stones flew out from room number 11. Every spiritual stone in the river contained extremely pure spiritual energy. They were all royal-grade spiritual stones. They are all royal-grade spiritual stones. What? Where did he come from? Using royal-grade spiritual stones to trade? He's really extravagant. All the honorable martial artists were dumbfounded when they saw the river of spiritual stones. They could not help but want to snatch the spiritual stones for themselves. If any of them could get their hands on this river of spirit stones, they would instantly become rich. However, such thoughts only existed in their imaginations. A person who could take out so much wealth in one go was definitely not an ordinary person. In the Heavenspan Pavilion, trying to snatch something was truly courting death. Spiritual Sage took the spiritual stones and checked the numbers in one glance. There was no problem, so he said, 100 million spiritual stones. Not bad. Well, the Dragon Emperor Claw will belong to me. Chu Fengmian shouted. An arm of spiritual energy suddenly appeared and grabbed the Dragon Emperor Claw. In the blink of an eye, the Dragon Emperor's dragon claw rapidly shrank. In the next moment, it disappeared from the square. No one present could see through the mystery behind it. This person's means are extremely mysterious. I can't even see how he did it. A disciple of the desolate ancient sect murmured to himself in Heaven Room 10. This person is not easy to deal with. It's fine. His methods are just a little more bizarre. I can sense that this person is still at the Divine Force realm. A cultivator at the Divine Force realm actually dares to fight against me? He is simply courting death. Gu Lin sneered. It's good to let him get more treasures. The more treasures he gets, the more I can get them all when I kill him in the future. Investigate this person's background and find out where he came from to have such a huge amount of wealth. All of you, go and investigate this person's background. I want to see who dares to compete with us. Voices rang out from the other heaven boxes. They were all trying to figure out Chu Fengmian's identity. Chu Fengmian, you're in the limelight now. A tree that stands out in the forest will be destroyed by the wind. You'll definitely attract the attention of these people. Be careful. Beside him, Bai Xian watched Chu Fengmian's methods with trepidation. The current Chu Fengmian could be said to not put anyone in his eyes. In this way, he would most likely offend countless experts. It doesn't matter. I like to see who dares to come. Whoever dares to provoke me will die, Chu Fengmian said calmly. Although his tone was calm, it was enough to hear Chu Fengmian's confidence. Everything was under Chu Fengmian's control. I've bid for countless treasures now. Once I refine them all, anyone who dares to cause trouble for me will die, Chu Fengmian said. I'll have to observe the mystery of this Dragon Emperor's dragon claw first. Chu Fengmian muttered to himself. With a thought, the Dragon Emperor's dragon claw appeared in front of him. The Dragon Emperor's dragon claw which was dozens of meters long, shrunk to the size of an ordinary person's palm. The spiritual energy in it was forcibly condensed by Chu Fengmian. Although it was shrunk, the power in it was more mysterious. Aohung Dragon Emperor is known as the leader of the ancient dragon clan. Now it seems that the rumor is true. Chu Fengmian looked at the Dragon Emperor's dragon claw and thought to himself, tens of thousands of years was enough to make countless strange things lose their spiritual energy. However, the Dragon Emperor's dragon claw still contained an extremely terrifying power. The spiritual energy contained in it was no less than some heaven elixirs. It was definitely a rare treasure. Blood essence, come out. Chu Fengmian glanced at it. With a move of his palm, a stream of blood essence was drawn out from the Dragon Emperor's dragon claw. There were roughly 3,000 drops of blood essence. Every single drop was golden in color and contained a terrifying amount of spiritual energy within each drop. If these 3,000 drops of dragon blood were swallowed by an ordinary martial artist, it would be enough to let that martial artist possess the Dragon Clan's bloodline, the Dragon Emperor's bloodline. However, for Chu Fengmian, the power of his bloodline, the ancient battle dragon bloodline, was above the Dragon Emperor bloodline. The ancient battle dragon was an existence that was on par with the Dragon Emperor. However, these 3,000 drops of dragon blood were definitely a great supplement for Chu Fengmian. It was enough to be integrated into his battle dragon fandom. Merge! Chu Fengmian roared. Suddenly, the 3,000 drops of dragon blood drilled into Chu Fengmian's body. Chu Fengmian's current strength had reached its limit and could not go any further. The 3,000 drops of dragon blood were hidden in the deepest part of Chu Fengmian's body. However, it did not mean that these 3,000 drops of dragon blood were useless. On the contrary, these 3,000 drops of dragon blood were a trump card in Chu Fengmian's body. Whether Chu Fengmian was in danger or going through a life and death crisis, he could use these 3,000 drops of dragon blood as his greatest trump card. Of course, the most precious part of the Dragon Emperor's dragon claw was the claw itself. Chu Fengmian kept the Dragon Emperor's dragon claw in an empty ring. He would wait for the perfect moment to start the sacred sacrifice. He would sacrifice the Nirvana Dragon Egg and the Dragon Emperor's dragon claw at the same time to help Chu Fengmian condense his body. The 38th auction item. In the venue, spiritual sage Ling Xuan spoke again on the stand. A total of 9 spiritual weapons were neatly placed on the stage. Are these the former heavenly demon 9 treasures? These 9 spiritual weapons were all top-grade Earth-level spiritual weapons. However, the moment they were brought up, the entire stand was suddenly filled with countless demonic intent. This demonic intent seemed to have filled the entire venue. Some of the weaker warriors could only use their strength to resist the demonic will within. The patterns on it are ancient. It should be the real heavenly demon 9 treasures of the heavenly demon sect from tens of thousands of years ago. Good stuff. Although this set of heavenly demon 9 treasures is only top-grade, Earth-level spiritual weapons, it is even more powerful than many heavenly spiritual weapons when combined. Chapter 584. Great! The heavenly demon sect used to be the leader of the demon Tao. If I can get the heavenly demon 9 treasures, my strength will be great. In the second sky box, an old man suddenly stood up with a face full of excitement. There was a huge centipede mark on the old man's chest, which looked extremely ferocious. His strong demonic aura was enough to prove his identity. He was definitely a big shot in the Earth Demon sect. Who in the Earth Demon sect has a centipede mark on their chest? Chu Fengmian stood aside. He said quietly, "Young Master Chu, are you talking about the 100 centipede demon venerable?" Hearing Chu Fengmian's words, Elderly thought for a moment and said, "The 100 centipede demon venerable is one of the big shots in the Earth Demon sect. Apart from those old antiques, how did you provoke him?" "That's not it. It's just that the 100 centipede demon exalted is also in the auction. He's in the second private room." Chu Fengmian nodded. "The 100 centipede demon venerable, a big shot in the Earth Demon sect," followed the old man in the second box. "You should be a good person." The 100 centipede demon venerable strength was even vaguely above that of the immortal demon Venerable. His status in the Earth Demon sect was definitely not low. He might even be a real big shot in the Earth Demon sect. Sects like the Earth Demon sect and the Beimang Academy had experts who had transcended life and death, but these people were old antiques who had lived for thousands of years and were usually in seclusion. People like the 100-centipede demon Venerable were the real backbone and controlled the overall situation. What, young Master Chu? You can see through the restriction of this box. Elder Li's face was full of surprise. The restriction in the heaven box was countless times more powerful than the one in the heaven chamber of commerce. Even Elder Li could not see through it, but Chu Fengmian could. It's just some special means. Chu Fengmian smiled casually and did not explain. This made Elder Li feel that Chu Fengmian was somewhat unfathomable. The starting price of the Heavenly Demon 9 treasures is 1,000,000 spirit stones. Spiritual Venerable said directly. 2,000,000. In the 7th box, Jade-Faced Dragon was the first to speak. 3,000,000. The voices in the 6th box were also constantly sounded. 4,000,000. 5,000,000. 10,000,000. The price rose steadily and finally reached the level of 70,000,000. It was bought by the 100-centipede demon sovereign in the 2nd private room. Although the 9 heavenly devil treasures were powerful, they weren't suitable for Chu Fengmian. He already had the ancestral dragon supreme sword, the richly lush steel, and the mortal emperor jar, so he didn't need any other spirit treasures. This was especially true for the celestial demon 9 treasures, which were weapons of the demonic path. They clashed with Chu Fengmian's techniques. Even if Chu Fengmian obtained them, it would be meaningless. This is the last auction item. Since everyone is here for it, this old man will not keep everyone in suspense. Please take a look. Venerable Spirit Sage let out a long cry as a fragment of a tile floated in the air in his palm. There were countless restrictions around the broken tiles. It was obvious that they had been specially set up as a precaution. The final auction item is an extreme immortal armament fragment. Everyone should be able to sense that the power contained in this extreme immortal armament fragment is completely different from that of a heaven-grade spirit artifact. Spiritual Venerable said slowly. Although this is only a fragment, if any of you can obtain it and refine it, you'll be able to obtain an opportunity. Perhaps you'll be able to collect all the fragments. At that time, you'll be able to obtain a complete extreme immortal weapon. Venerable Spirit Sage's words caused an uproar. An extreme immortal armament. In the history of the 9 regions, it was something that had only appeared in the Primordial Age and the Antiquity Age. In the current era, it didn't even exist 10,000 years ago. If anyone could obtain an extreme immortal armament, it meant that they would be almost invincible. No one would be a match for them. That's right. It's really an extreme immortal armament fragment. I can sense that the spiritual energy contained in it isn't ordinary spiritual energy. It's celestial power. There's a huge difference between it and a heaven-grade spirit artifact. The women in box number 3 stood up abruptly when they saw the fragment of the mortal emperor jar. Their eyes were filled with greed. I must get this fragment. Check how much wealth we have left. Today, even if we have to stake everything we have, we must get this extreme immortal armament fragment. Whoever can obtain an extreme immortal armament will be truly invincible. We must get it. We're under the orders of our sections. We must get this extreme immortal armament fragment. There were many such discussions. Practically all the forces present had come for the sake of obtaining the fragment of an extreme immortal armament. No matter which force it was, they would never let go of this extreme immortal armament fragment. Venerable Spirit Sage suddenly said in the midst of the discussion, "The starting price of the extreme immortal armament fragment is 10,000,000. 100,000,000. Just as Spiritual Sovereign finished speaking, Gulin abruptly opened his mouth and shouted out a number from the number 10 box. What? He directly called out a price of 100,000,000. Countless people present were stunned. 100,000,000 spiritual stones for this extreme immortal armament fragment. They didn't expect the first person to call out such a high price. It's just a fragment of an extreme immortal armament. It's not a real extreme immortal armament. Is it worth it? Some of the onlooking cultivators said with jealousy. Before he could finish his sentence, countless numbers were yelled out from the heaven box again. I bid 200 million, 250 million, 300 million. Everyone in the heaven tier boxes began to compete for the fragments of the extreme immortal weapon. The price of the fragments of the extreme immortal weapon rose rapidly. This left everyone dumbfounded. This is crazy. Elder Li's eyes widened. He didn't expect the fragment of the extreme immortal armament to be so valuable. Crazy? Chu Fengyan sneered. How could the price of the fragment of the extreme immortal armament be so low? The last time Chu Fengyan bid for the fragment of the extreme immortal armament, it was in the Qin Empire Kingdom. It was a small and remote place where there were no experts or major forces. That was why Chu Fengyan was able to obtain it. However, this place was the Void Ocean, the gathering place of countless experts in the North region. Moreover, the 6 ancient cave mansions had attracted many experts from the Central and West region. Even the 7 great sects would want to obtain such a fragment of an extreme-grade celestial weapon. The price was too low. 500 million. A voice suddenly rang out. It was the woman in box number 3. Her voice raised the price of the fragment of the extreme immortal armament to 500 million. Thank you, Singularity. I'll lean over and kiss your reward. I'm really busy these days. I can only try my best to keep it updated 4 times a day. I'll definitely update more after this. Thank you for your support. Chapter 585. 500 million spiritual stones were equivalent to 500 royal-grade spiritual stones and 50,000 royal-grade spiritual stones. Bai Xian had only managed to obtain 1 royal-grade spiritual stone after traveling in the Void Ocean for a long time. Now, she was going crazy to bid for the fragment of the Extreme Path immortal weapon. The crowd's astonishment had yet to dissipate. In the next moment, another voice was heard. I'll bid 1 billion. The voice exploded like a clap of thunder, completely suppressing all the bids. The owner of the voice was none other than 100 Centipede Demon Venerable, who was in room number 2. 100 Centipede Demon Venerable's words had doubled the price of the fragment of the Extreme Path immortal weapon. This doubling was not that simple. It was an increase of 500 million spirit stones all of a sudden. Why can't I get the fragment of the Extreme Path immortal weapon? The eyes of the honorable martial artists below were filled with jealousy. If any of them managed to get their hands on this fragment of an Extreme Dao immortal weapon, they would really strike it rich. Damn it, the people of the Earth Demon sect are here too. We don't have enough wealth. In a heaven box, many voices of unwillingness rang out. However, the price of 1 billion spiritual stones was enough to make most of the people back off. 100 Centipede Demon Venerable laughed confidently. Humph, if no one bids, the fragment of the Extreme Path immortal weapon will belong to me. I'll bid 2 billion. As soon as 100 Centipede Demon Venerable finished speaking, a disdainful voice was heard. This voice was unfamiliar to him. He had never heard this person speak before. Who is it? Heaven room number 1. The martial highnesses glanced in the direction of the voice and realized that the voice had come from the first sky booth. The arrangement of the heaven rooms represented the status of each faction. The heaven room number 1 belonged to the sky-reaching pavilion. The item that was auctioned by the sky-reaching pavilion was actually bought by someone from the sky-reaching pavilion. Countless people looked at the spectator stand doubtfully. It seemed like the person who bought the item was a scam. Although the heaven room number 1 belongs to the sky-reaching pavilion, the people inside are not from the sky-reaching pavilion. Please don't worry. Spiritual Venerable explained with a smile. 2 billion spiritual stones. Is there anyone else who is willing to bid higher? 2 billion and a half billion. 100 Centipede Demon Venerable said from the heaven room number 2. 3 billion. 5 billion. 4 billion. No matter what 100 Centipede Demon Venerable said, the people in the heaven room number 1 remained calm, as if they didn't care. Who is the person in the heaven room number 1? To be able to get a private room in the sky-penetrating pavilion, This is someone that even the sky-penetrating pavilion has to curry favor with. This person's wealth is truly frightening. Chu Fengmian could also tell that the calmness and composure of the person in booth number 1 was definitely not an act. It was just that the price was nothing to him. Let's see. With a jolt of his mind, Chu Fengmian's spiritual consciousness drilled into box number 1. He saw 7 or 8 young men standing inside. These young men were all at the 9th level of the divine power realm. Their strength wasn't any weaker than Luo Zhanhan's. The strongest among them was even stronger than Flood Prison. Chu Fengmian sensed that this person was hiding a great deal of his strength. Right now, he was just like a sleeping lion. Once he displayed his full strength, he would be able to contend with a high-level life and death realm expert. This aura is the invincible Sage Monarch mystic technique. Are they from the Sage Monarch sect? Chu Fengmian sensed the aura of these people and instantly understood. These people were from the Sage Monarch sect, one of the 7 major sections. The Sage Monarch sect was considered ancient among the 7 major sections. It was even more ancient than the ancient Desolate sect. Senior Brother Qian Yuan, you must get the fragment of the Extreme Path Immortal Weapon. A Sage Monarch sect disciple said fawningly to the strongest person in the group. The fragment of the Extreme Path Immortal Weapon is a treasure that has never appeared in our central region. If you can get it, I'm afraid you will become a big shot in our Sage Monarch sect. I thought this remote place was nothing when I came to the North region. I didn't expect to find the cave mansion of the Yin Yang demon venerable and obtain his wealth. There are tens of billions of spiritual stones. I want to see who dares to compete with me for the fragment of the Extreme Path Immortal Weapon. Qian Yuan said arrogantly. His words were filled with extreme confidence. How can these natives of the North region compete with me? I want to see what they are capable of. The guys from the Northern region are just some aborigines. The fragment of the Extreme Way Immortal Weapon will only be covered in dust if it falls into their hands. Only when it falls into the hands of Senior Brother Qian Yuan will it belong to the virtuous. A Sage Monarch sect disciple hurriedly flattered. Senior Brother Qian Yuan, look, the natives in the second box can't bid anymore. The scene was silent for a long time. Then, a voice came out from private room number 2. For 2 billion. This was the highest price that Demon Venerate Tian Ho could offer. It was as if all the energy in his body had been drained from his body. For 3 billion. Qian Yuan smiled coldly and casually called out a price. Demon Venerate Tian Yang was disappointed by the price. He had used up all his wealth, and he could no longer compete for it. For 3 billion. This is a sky-high price. I don't think there has ever been such a price in the sky-reaching pavilion's auction. I wonder who's in the first box. How can he be so rich? The supremacies discussed among themselves. The dust seemed to have settled. Even Qian Yuan looked confident. His eyes were filled with greed as he looked at the fragment of the Extreme Path Immortal Weapon. He was extremely excited when he thought about how the fragment of the Extreme Path Immortal Weapon would belong to him in the next moment. I bid 5 billion. Amidst the silence, Chu Fengmian suddenly spoke up. Like a dark horse, he charged out and raised the price even higher. What? The person in the 11th box bid again. He didn't bid during the Heavenly Demon 9 treasures. I thought he had used up all his wealth, but now he's bidding again. 5 billion. Some of the martial artists trembled when they heard this number. 5 billion spiritual stones. How much wealth was that? It was beyond their imagination. Chapter 586. Who is this guy? I'm afraid that even some major forces can't take out 5 billion. Even the president of Tianyu Chamber of Commerce wouldn't be so extravagant. I thought that the matter of the Extreme Tao Immortal Weapon had been settled. I didn't expect this guy to speak again. The spiritual consciousnesses in the heaven box were chatting. They had already withdrawn from the battle. The battle for the fragment of the Extreme Tao Immortal Weapon was between Chu Fengmian in Box 11 and Qian Yuan in Box 1. Senior Brother Qian Yuan, I can't believe someone dares to compete with you. The Sage Monarch sect's disciple said coldly. This guy seems to have a lot of wealth. I'm afraid he must have obtained a lot of wealth from the ancient cave abode. That's why he's so extravagant. So what if he has the wealth? I could get all the wealth of the yin-yang demon ancestor. I don't believe this guy can compete with me. A sneer appeared in Qian Yuan's eyes. 6 billion. Qian Yuan casually shouted out another number. However, Qian Yuan felt a little displeased deep down. The fragment of the extreme path, celestial weapon, had almost fallen into his hands. He didn't expect Chu Fengmian to suddenly appear and completely disrupt his plan. However, Qian Yuan was confident that it wouldn't be difficult for him to get the fragment of the extreme Dao immortal weapon with his wealth. 7 billion. Chu Fengmian shouted out another number. His tone was the same as Qian Yuan's. He didn't seem to care about the sky-high price of 7 billion. Chu Fengmian had the blood sea, and the wealth in the blood sea could be counted in the trillions. He wouldn't even bat an eye at 70 billion, let alone 7 billion. 8 billion. Qian Yuan's eyes flashed with a strange light as he spoke again. Before his voice died away, Chu Fengmian's voice rang out again. 9 billion. Damn it. Qian Yuan's face was full of anger. This had completely ruined his plan. He had never thought that Chu Fengmian would dare to contend with him. 10 billion. I'll bid 10 billion. Qian Yuan said, gritting his teeth. Boy, let's see how you're going to compete with me. 10 billion? It's just 10 billion spiritual stones. You want to buy the fragment of the extreme Dao immortal weapon with such a small amount of wealth? Chu Fengmian's cold voice rang out from the box. 20 billion spirit stones. Boom. This sentence simply caused the minds of countless people present to go blank. 20 billion spirit stones. The price had actually doubled once again. This kind of bidding method was simply not treating spirit stones as wealth. It was as if Chu Fengmian's wealth was endless. Who is this person? 20 billion spiritual stones. There are very few people in the void ocean who can take out 20 billion spiritual stones. Is this that old antique? Or someone who had obtained a great opportunity in the ancient cave mansion? No matter which one it is, it's not easy to deal with. We can't investigate anymore. I'm afraid that this person's origin is very unpredictable. Voices rang out in the heaven box. If the wealth that Chu Fengmian had shown before was enough to make them want to seize the opportunity to plunder it. Now, the wealth was no longer something that could be stolen. Regardless of whether it was the old antiques or the people who had obtained great fortune from the cave, they were all extremely terrifying existences that couldn't be provoked. You. When Qian Yuan heard Chu Fengmian's number, he was also stunned. His face flushed red, as if he was so angry that he couldn't speak. Such a domineering and ruthless method of using wealth to crush him simply made him furious. 30 billion. I'll pay 30 billion. Qian Yuan crazily opened his mouth. The anger in his voice simply swept through the entire venue. Qian Yuan's strength was not below high-level life and death realm. His anger caused the restrictions on the box to begin to tremble. Obviously, he was extremely angry. However, compared to Qian Yuan, Chu Fengmian's face was extremely calm. 30 billion? It's just a small matter. I'll pay 40 billion. Chu Fengmian calmly opened his mouth. Although his words were calm, they increased the price by 10 billion. 10 billion spiritual stones came out of Chu Fengmian's mouth casually. It was as if it wasn't 10 billion spiritual stones, but 100 spiritual stones. Moreover, even 100 spiritual stones wouldn't be enough for a martial artist to be so extravagant. Little guy, don't compete with me. You can't compete with me. All your wealth is just a small matter in my eyes. Chu Fengmian's faint voice resounded. If Qian Yuan heard this, he would simply die from anger. Qian Yuan had obtained the wealth of an ancient cave mansion. This wealth was simply enormous compared to the heritage of many sections. He didn't expect to be ridiculed like this. Damn it, kid, you forced me to do this. 50 billion. Qian Yuan crazily roared. He originally didn't intend to bet all his wealth, but at this time, Qian Yuan was in a frenzy. Now, all his thoughts were to overwhelm Chu Fengmian and obtain the fragment of the extreme immortal weapon. 60 billion. Chu Fengmian casually spoke again. He didn't care at all, adding 10 billion spiritual stones each time. There was even a hint of playfulness in his tone, as if he was playing a game with Qian Yuan. Everything was under Chu Fengmian's control. 70 billion. Qian Yuan gritted his teeth and coldly snorted. 80 billion. Chu Fengmian calmly said. This price was getting increasingly inflated, making people shudder with fear. What kind of concept was 80 billion spiritual stones? If released, it was enough to pile up into a mountain and crush people to death. The countless cultivators present did not expect that there was actually someone who could possess such wealth. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! In the first box, Qian Yuan was simply in a frenzy, burning with anger. Qian Yuan looked at the other Sage Monarch sect disciples in the box and shouted loudly, "Contribute all your wealth to me." Yes, these Sage Monarch sect disciples didn't dare to resist and hurriedly handed over all their wealth, gathering all their wealth together. The current Qian Yuan was like a crazy gambler. In order to win the bet, he was willing to pay any price and go all out. 10 million. I'll pay 10 million. Qian Yuan's words had sealed the deal. He had suppressed all his wealth, including the wealth of the disciples of the Sage Monarch sect. He shouted out this absolute number. 100 billion? This is the wealth you can take out? It's just SOSO. I said that your wealth is nothing in front of me. 110 billion. Chu Fengmian calmly said. As soon as this number came out, Qian Yuan's face froze. Qian Yuan opened his mouth in a daze, unable to say a word for a long time. Chapter 587. 110 billion in wealth might be an astronomical figure to others, but to Chu Fengmian, it wasn't necessarily much. He had the Blood Sea, and the spiritual stones in the Blood Sea were worth billions. Chu Fengmian only needed to extract the spiritual energy from the Blood Sea and exchange all the essence of the blood energy in it for the pure spirit stone wealth. 110 billion spiritual stones? Can he really afford it? Many martial artists could not help but murmur to themselves. A wealth of 110 billion was more than the foundation of many first-rate forces. Could a single person really take out such a huge amount of wealth? Senior brother Qian Yuan, don't worry. This person must be bidding recklessly. How can he afford 110 billion spiritual stones? A Sage Monarch sect disciple in room 1 said hurriedly, if he can't afford it, senior brother Qian Yuan, he will be destroyed by the sky-reaching pavilion. That's right. Qian Yuan's expression softened when he heard the Sage Monarch sect disciple's words. Kid, you win this time. Not bad. I want to see if you can take out so much wealth. If you can't afford it, I will kill you now. Qian Yuan's words were full of killing intent. Many people looked at room 11, where Chu Fengmian was. Indeed, it was unknown whether or not Chu Fengmian could take out such a huge amount of wealth. Can't afford it? Do you think I'm a pauper like you who can't afford it? Chu Fengmian's sneering voice rang out from box 11. Watch carefully. Boom! The door of room 11 suddenly opened. A long river flowed out of it. It was made up of countless royal-grade spiritual stones. There were even some spirit stones that were purer than king-grade spirit stones. Royal-grade spiritual stones. The supremacy martialists almost went crazy when they saw the river of spiritual stones. That's right. It's 110 billion spiritual stones. Spiritual Reverend Jinren counted them and found that there were 110 billion spiritual stones. This fragment of the extreme Tao immortal armament belongs to this distinguished one. Spiritual Venerable raised his hand, and the restriction on the fragment of the Emperor jar was completely broken. Chu Fengmian waved his hand, and the fragment was directly swept away by Chu Fengmian. Elderly, I'll take my leave first. Chu Fengmian said to Elderly after putting away the fragment of the Emperor jar. Then, with Bai Xian, his body moved, and he left. That person left. Chase after them. This person has boundless wealth on him. If any of us can get it, we can reach the heavens in a single bound. Many figures chased after Chu Fengmian when they saw him leaving. Chu Fengmian and Bai Xian left the auction venue in the blink of an eye. They left the sky-penetrating pavilion and traveled through the primal chaos continent. Chu Fengmian, there seems to be quite a number of people chasing after us. The people in box number 1 and box number 10 are chasing after us. As she fled, Bai Xian looked behind her. Behind them, several streaks of light chased after them. They were filled with murderous intent. Obviously, they had no intention of letting Chu Fengmian go, especially Qian Yuan and Gu Lin. Chu Fengmian had robbed them of so many things at the auction, which was a slap to their faces. The two of them had no intention of letting Chu Fengmian go. They chased after him one by one. It doesn't matter. Let them chase. These people don't know what's good for them. I just want to kill them. The people of the 7 sects must all die. Chu Fengmian's eyes were filled with cold, killing intent. Since these people had come to die, Chu Fengmian would not be polite. Anyway, the people of the 7 sects all deserve to die. Chu Fengmian would not let any of them go. The 2 streaks of light flew all the way to the most remote south of the primal chaos continent. Senior brother Qian Yuan, this person's streaks of light are so fast. Our streaks of light can barely keep up with him. Behind Chu Fengmian, a group of Sage Monarch sect disciples chased after Chu Fengmian with streaks of light. Their streaks of light were incomparably mysterious. Vaguely, they had the aura of ancient sages. They were known as Sage Monarchs, the kings of the righteous path. This person can't escape. I've already planted a seal on his body. No matter where he goes, he won't be able to escape. Qian Yuan said coldly. He's trying his best to escape and refine the fragment of the extreme path immortal weapon. It won't be that easy. This person dares to compete with me. He's my enemy. Only death awaits him. All his treasures and the fragment of the extreme path immortal weapon will belong to me. Let's go. Let's chase after him. Countless Sage Monarch sect disciples turned into streaks of light and chased after Chu Fengmian. Senior brother Gu Lin, the people of the Sage Monarch sect seemed to be in front. Behind the streaks of light, there was a group of people chasing after Chu Fengmian. This group of people were the disciples of the ancient Baron sect in Box 10. The people of the Sage Monarch sect. I heard that Qian Yuan obtained a great opportunity in the ancient cave mansion. Looking at his wealth, it's obvious that he obtained a great opportunity. Gu Lin looked to the front and said coldly, "Let's follow behind and let that kid fight with the people of the Sage Monarch sect." Judging from his wealth, he must have obtained a great opportunity. When they're injured, we'll catch them all in one fell swoop. Gu Lin's eyes flashed with greed as he said coldly, "The people of the Sage Monarch sect and that kid will all become my stepping stones. All their treasures will belong to me." The 3 streaks of light chased after Chu Fengmian all the way to the southernmost part of the primal chaos continent. The southernmost part of the primal chaos continent was the most unstable place in the entire primal chaos continent. Therefore, it was the most desolate place without any martial artists. Chu Fengmian flew continuously until he came to a mountain range. Within 1,000 miles, he could no longer detect any martial artist's auras. Chu Fengmian then slowly stopped. Senior brother Qian Yuan, it seems that he has stopped. Not far away, the Sage Monarch sect disciples also noticed that Chu Fengmian had stopped. This kid must have used up a lot of his spiritual energy. That's why he stopped. Let's chase after him and kill him. Qian Yuan snorted coldly. A few streaks of light rushed over with a swoosh. In an instant, a few figures suddenly appeared beside Chu Fengmian. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.